Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for yet another Chelsea transfer talk, because Chelsea do mental things every day. I know we haven't been able to stream for a couple of weeks now because I've been very busy and I've been away to Berlin, watched the Euros and everything else, but we're back. And Chelsea, as soon as there's 2 days without Euro games, the news have kicked off. Now, according to Nizar Kinsella, we're actually supposed to expect many transfers all over the world of football this weekend, because June 30th is obviously Sunday, and that is the end of the financial year. So there's going to be a lot of sales and weird PSR-related transfers like Ian Martin and Kellyman. I forget Kellyman's first name, but we'll get to that. It's just one of the many strange things that are happening at the moment, because Chelsea have decided to hijack Brighton and Hove Albion swap dealing Kane and Dewsbury-Hall from Leicester City. We've hijacked it. He was already in Brighton trying to do his medical. All of a sudden, we give him a call. Actually, we might be interested. So now they've put everything on hold. We've apparently already had an offer rejected, but we're still discussing and everything's happening. Apparently, Maresca is a fan. It's like, all right, go on then. So, yeah, weird things happening. Omari Hutchinson is joining Ipswich for £22.5 million. Yeah, we'll talk about that, whether we think that's good or bad, or good value, bad value. There's a lot of stuff to uncover. Pais, I'll start with you first of all. Thank you for coming back on. I appreciate it very, very much. I'm getting more and more confused by what Chelsea do, and I've tried really hard the last week or two to try and be a bit more positive. I really try. And then it genuinely feels like every time a club brief, or what often I take as a club brief, comes out of me, whether it's from Fabrizio or Matt Law or Ornstein, even though Ornstein does less briefing, I guess, I just fall into a deep depression again, because usually I'm not particularly happy with whatever they come out with. Now, let's just start with Kane and Dewsbury-Hall. Why not? He's not a bad player, is he? But I just don't really see the point. So, Pies, where do you stand on that one specifically, and in general, what Chelsea have been doing this time? I've seen a lot of people talking about we're moving like Brentford. Do you know what I mean? We're signing players for free from Fulham, and we're trying to hijack moves from the Championship. What's going on? Can you said it before we went live? Pies is here to bring the positivity, so please share some positivity, bro.
I mean, I'll try. Yeah, no, good to be back on. It feels like I haven't been on in ages since I'm now also streaming. I'm really busy, but yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. This Dewsbury-Hall. My initial reaction was like yours, what the hell are we doing? We've gone from, a striker, a winger, to now we're getting a midfielder. If you'd asked anyone at the end of the season, what five or what 3 or 4 positions would you want first? The last one would be a centre midfielder, because we seemingly are stacked there. However, if we sign Dewsbury-Hall and we sell Gallagher and Santos goes out on loan, for example, Leslie goes out on loan, we kind of do need another body in there. It makes sense in terms of look, he's played under Enzo Maresca. He's a decent player. He's good technically. He's good on the ball. He's good getting out of tight spaces. And he had a goals and assists explosion under Maresca last season, albeit the Championship. But it's something to take into account. And look, it could be for a decent price. We've been opportunistic at the moment. That's what Chelsea are. Chelsea being very opportunistic in this window. You've seen that with Marc Guiu. I guess that's how you pronounce his name. I keep getting told that's how you pronounce it. So, yeah. So we'll go with Marc Guiu. He's been signed for £5 million from Barca. Opportunity, I guess. And yeah, look, I don't want opportunistic signings for all of them, but if this is one where Chelsea feel like, okay, we can back the manager almost. He's a nice player. Maresca wants it. I'm happy to go for it. Though I am in the boat of we do need. I feel like we need a big name signing, not just because it's a big name signing, but just because I feel like it's a little bit underwhelming at the moment, this window. Those of you that said, well, with our current squad, we should be getting top 4 last season, then, maybe you can't really complain as much. And maybe I sit in that boat a little bit, because we're just adding on to a squad that you already believe we could have got top 4 with. So maybe it's like that. But then with some of the sales, etc., that might leave, there's an argument to be made there that, we're not really strengthening at the moment, the squad. So, I mean, obviously we'll see long term, but yeah, it's a weird one. It is a weird one. I'm not going to sit here and say to you, look, I want a centre midfielder over a striker, over a winger, over a centre back, over a goalkeeper, over a left back. These are all positions that we should be going for first. But in this day and age, Chelsea are being opportunistic, and unfortunately, that's how it is. We have to sit back and wait and see what happens.
Unfortunately, that is the reality. Yeah, I will let Ollie speak before I say my little bit on it. What you can see on screen right now is what came out last night. Yeah, yesterday you can see it's 7 p.m. Austrian time, so 6 p.m. UK time is when we got the exclusive from David Ornstein. We then did get a bit of an update on that this morning, and obviously many of it throughout the day now. But in the morning, Ornstein then said Chelsea submit offer to Leicester City for Kane and Dewsbury-Hall if they'll struck long-term contract expected to be agreed with 25-year-old midfielder representatives. Declined chance to join Brighton, will move to Chelsea or stay at Leicester. That's interesting. So he was already in Brighton for the medical, but he's now either going to Chelsea or staying at Leicester. So that's fascinating again. But yeah, Ollie, similar question to what I posed to Pice. I know you're not here to bring the positivity as much as I was trying to, but where do you stand on this transfer? Like Pice said, going into this transfer window, finishing last season, we didn't necessarily think, oh yeah, midfield, that's where we need to strengthen. Now, sure, we all knew that there was a big likelihood of Conor Gallagher leaving. And obviously with Enzo Maresca, we play arguably one more out-and-out midfielder in the team. But I feel like most of us, including myself, expected Cole Palmer to shift into that position under Maresca because Maresca's wingers are supposedly, at least at Leicester, usually stay out wide and are touchline wingers. And that's not what Cole Palmer is. So this is what, okay, even if Gallagher leaves, because Palmer comes into that area, I just don't really understand it. And if they see Palmer as the permanent winger, even under Maresca, then either I'm surprised by what Maresca has planned, or if it's the sporting directors, then I'm just as I have been for the last 2 years, just concerned about the ball knowledge at the football club. But yeah, where do you stand in particular, obviously, on Dewsbury-Hall specifically?
Kane and Dewsbury-Hall, the stately home. You know what? I've been back and forth. I've been umming and ahhing about this all day because on the one hand, I don't really like the move. I feel like it's a bit of a waste of time and money. I feel like you've already got if you're looking at someone to play that kind of left 8, left 10 kind of role that he likes to play, you've got Enzo Fernandez and you've got Carney Chukwuemeka, right? Both of those will do an excellent job, let alone Conor Gallagher if he decided to stay. So I'm sort of I kind of don't see what the point is in bringing him in, at least to a certain degree, because I just feel like we've got other players who are going to be filling those spaces who we already own or have a higher ceiling than he does, or can just straight out perform better than he does. Yeah. But at the same time, I understand that he does, he knows Maresca well, and clearly, if Maresca has had that kind of effect on him, then it would be good to bring that kind of level of play to the Premier League. Obviously it's not going to be quite as good, but the Championship actually translates quite well as a league to the Premier League. Likes of Ivan Toney and Ollie Watkins and all these other players came from the Championship. Of course they're strikers, but there are midfield options as well. And sometimes these players do well. They sort of really kick on and do well. We have seen him in the Premier League before with Leicester when they went down. It's hard when you're in a team that is going to go down like Leicester were going to, for him to properly perform. So I don't necessarily hold those performances against him. I do want to be positive about this signing. It just feels a little forced. It feels a bit like Maresca said, this is someone I know, this is someone I want. And so even if we've been looking at him before, that was kind of the reason to pull the trigger on it rather than any other reason.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Pies, I'll get you on that in a second in terms of, is this, coming on the back of Maresca asking for it, or is this more of a Chelsea situation? I want to try to mention a few of the positives that I do see about it before I get into my few concerns. First of all, he is left-footed. I think our midfield does maybe lack a bit of a left footer. But then again, I almost go back to my point I made 3 minutes ago, where I'm like, if Cole Palmer is the one moving into that number 8 role, then there's your left footer as well. So again, I'm like, is it really necessary? I don't fully know, right? But I understand that. I can see a positive there in a left footer being added to our midfield. The one other thing I do like about it is that we make, piss off Brighton again, and I do find that funny. So, I do like that about it, but I do hope that's not the only reason it's happening, because it's one of the only positives I can find about it. The interesting bit is I see people like the Chelsea eye test here. He says 26 goals and assists last season in the Championship. No Chelsea midfielder does this even in the Championship, they say. And I'm like, Conor Gallagher had 17 goals and assists in the Premier League. Maybe this might have actually been all comps, not just in the Prem, to be fair, but still in a team in the Prem. So, 7 off? Not in the best. Like, what you need to remember, this isn't like, I don't know, Mason Mount being at Derby, who finished 5th in that season. This is the best team with the best manager by far in that league. So, like, I'm not saying this is bad, and I'm not saying we shouldn't give him credit for getting 12 goals and 14 assists. That is, good going. No matter where you play, if a midfielder gets 12 goals, 14 assists, you've had a good season. It's as simple as that. But is it good enough to be at Chelsea? That's the only thing. Like, the expectations, and Pies touched on this earlier, the expectations set for the manager and the team is top 4. And I just don't think this is a top 4 kind of signing. And, like,
it's a mid-table signing for me. I think that's ultimately where I fall on it. It just feels like a mid-table signing.
Yeah. Like I said, he's not a bad player as such, but what is he coming in for? Is he coming in to start? Then that's a bad sign in the first place, in my opinion. Like, if you're getting a championship player in to start, but expecting top 4, then you're just putting your team and your manager in a difficult situation. And if you're bringing him in to mostly come off the bench, well, then I think Conor Gallagher is a much better player to bring off the bench with the energy. I'm not like Dewsbury-Hall is probably technically ever like a bit better than Conor Gallagher. Well, Gallagher is a bit better out of possession and stuff. Like, evens itself out a little bit. Some people will say he's a bit better. I would probably argue probably about the same. But the next thing for me is the whole age situation that we're looking at here. The guy's 25 years old, which, a lot of people, and I've even had those people already coming at me, on Twitter and everywhere else, like, oh, you've asked for an experienced player. How can you now complain when we're signing someone that's about to turn 26 in September? I'm like, yeah, but just because he is like Mudryk. Mudryk is 23.
Age isn't experience.
Basically not experienced at all. Dewsbury-Hall is nearly 26 and has 2 seasons of Premier League under his belt. Conor Gallagher is 10 times as experienced as Dewsbury-Hall is. So, like, like Pai said, in terms of, like, what are we doing to the squad? We're replacing Thiago Silva with Tosin, who, yes, is not as inexperienced as, say, maybe Levi Colwill before he went to Brighton, but he still only has 3 Premier League seasons under his belt. Okay, and 3 championship ones as well. But we are aiming for the Champions League. We're not aiming to come 10th. We're not aiming to come 8th. Like, so we're replacing one of the best defenders in history with Tosin, who isn't a bad player, but we're drastically reducing the experience there. And even if you replaced Conor Gallagher with Dewsbury-Hall, who's a bit older, but actually has a lot less experience. So, yeah, again, lessening the experience in the squad. Now, there are obviously the Carney Chukwuemeka rumors going around. We will get to those in a little bit. Sure, if you replace Carney Chukwuemeka with Dewsbury-Hall, yes, then you would ever so slightly increase the experience, to be fair. There's nothing to say about that from that perspective. But there is another bit that I want to touch on, Pies. Oh, as Pies... No, Ollie has left. I'm sure his connection fell apart. There's a weird thing going on. I need to just find it quickly. That the Premier League have written to all Premier League clubs to remind them that they will be punished for fraudulent player transfers as scrutiny grows on the so-called swap deals, which have been done by certain clubs in an attempt to generate funds to be compliant with financial controls. So, obviously, a couple of days ago, the move from Ian Martin going to Aston Villa for £37.5 million. And then also Chelsea signing Omari Kellerman for £19 million, who's played, once for Aston Villa, and is essentially not particularly good, and we're just doing a PSR move to give them some money, they give us some money, and everybody's happy. Do you think this is at all what's happening here with Dewsbury-Hall as well, Pies? With Leicester, because obviously we all know Leicester have been in a bit of trouble with financial, situations after their relegation and stuff like that, with them building their new training ground of the last few years as well. Do you see that being a part of this potential transfer at all, or do you think it's like, well, we liked him already, Maresca is involved? And then I want to hear your answer on what Ollie said earlier. Do you think this is Maresca asking for the player? Because if that is the case, again, I just need to question even more of what's happening at Chelsea, because we've spent the last 2 managers not giving them anything they wanted, and now this new guy comes in. If it is on the back of his request, what on earth was the last 2 years about? Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, but Papai's where do you stand on it? Is it a PSR move? Is it a Maresca move? What do you think?
Look, the first thing I'll say is the club are always going to deny anything that it's going to be a PSR move. Obviously, they can't.
No, of course. I'm asking you if it actually is.
Yeah, no, I think personally the Aston Villa one 100% was like, Amari Kellerman is not worth £19 million for fuck's sake. Like, There's no way he's worth that. Like,
Mate,
let's be
he's lucky
serious
if
here.
he's worth £19, let alone 19 million.
Like,
Do you know what I mean?
he's, from what I've seen, like I've been watching and stuff like that, like different streams, and like Alex Colbo, for example, has had like a lot of academy experts on. He's a very talented player, but there's no way he's worth £90 million. Like they were saying more like 6 to 8 million or something like that. So that's an inflated fee, in my opinion. Look, the club, they got experts in this field for a reason. Hopefully, we don't get in trouble, but it is kind of weird how there was like a tweet where it's like Everton and another club are working together. It just seems like it's a bit more of a
Newcastle as well.
Yeah, it's just weird, isn't it? Like how these are sort of the clubs, it's just strange. But this Leicester one, I genuinely think it's not a PSR move. I think it's Chelsea's probably had this guy Dewsbury-Hall on their radar for a little while in terms of potential midfield options in case Gallagher leaves. And I think the fact that Maresca's here is just kind of like, it's made more sense, I guess, or probably made him move up in the list to obviously number one. So yeah, that's what I think. I don't think it's a PSR move. I think that although they're two separate deals, like for example, Casadei or Broja or Fofana might go there, I feel like this one is a little bit more of a I don't get the same vibe as the Aston Villa one. Like the Aston Villa one was just weird how they bought Maatsen for so much, having seemingly no money to spend, and then we're like, okay, look, we'll buy someone from you from the academy for 90 million, separate deals.
So no, I understand that, but do you reckon it could be like, how for Villa, they actually signed Ian Martin as an actual player they were interested in, and we took Kellyman off them, and we actually kind of want Dewsbury-Hall, and now they take some, either like you mentioned, Fofana, Broja, one of these lot potentially off us. So like almost reverse to what happened with Aston Villa, where the player we're signing isn't in that scenario like a PSR player, but the fact that the way a potential player could be going the other way as a combination could be a PSR move. That's what I still feel could be possible.
It depends what we would sell like Fofana or Broja for. I think if it's for a massively inflated fee to the equivalent of like the equivalent that Kellyman was also marked up.
No, it won't be because we're the rich club, so it won't be that extreme.
Yeah, we won't keep being rich if we keep spending, money on dross. But
already not really rich anymore.
I think, I think Pice is right though. I think I'm willing to say that I think that this is more that the manager wanting him is like something that is almost like a multiplier for the deal. So it's less of a PSR thing, and it's more just a lot of things that make sense at the same time between the two clubs. That would be my opinion.
Yeah, I do hear it. Couture Criminal says Sky Sports News said Chelsea don't need to sell players to comply with PSR. That is true, but next year is still a thing. So things don't, because this isn't over the line yet. It might not get done by Sunday. So as soon as it happens on Monday, it is actually part of next year's financial year. So, and we still need to comply next year. Sorry?
All I'm saying is just look at what we've done before June 30th in terms of sales. 2 pure profit players.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like Sky Sports said, with the hotels and stuff, we might not have needed it, but the whole thing runs in a 3-year cycle. So the more in the plus you are now, the less you have to cover next year. So that's why it's still a positive if you add some extra.
Of course, Chelsea would brief that they don't need to sell for PSR because that would weaken our negotiation position if we did. So I just think it's interesting how before June 30th, we've sold Maatsen and Amari Hutchinson. We've not, it's not like we've sold Lukaku and Kepa or something. We've sold 2 pure profit players that help our books massively before June 30th. We could sell Hutchinson for 22 million at any time in the window, but the fact is we've done it before June 30th just puts those sort of...
You probably could have sold him for a bit more if it was later in the window.
Exactly. It's like, it does kind of, yeah. I mean, I've always said personally, I do think we need to raise a certain amount for PSR, and I reckon we've probably done that now, to be fair. So, yeah.
I wonder if they're just trying to cover their bases as well, because from what I've read, I think the sales of the hotel and things like that are still actually under scrutiny, and they haven't 100% gone through yet.
Yeah.
And so if they for whatever reason don't go through, which let's be honest, they might not because it seems a bit dodgy. Yeah. Then at least we've got a little bit more booked pure profit on the books for this summer, which will help us.
Exactly. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. As you can see, this other bit of news, well, Pice combined it, I guess, at the time. This was at 2 p.m. this afternoon. Obviously, what I showed you already earlier, that David Ornstein said, and we have submitted an offer for Dewsbury-Hall, which then was confirmed and was rejected. We don't know exactly what fee that rejected bid was, but we know that according to Fabrizio Romano, Chelsea and Leicester are discussing players included in the deal, like Casadei, Dacio Fofana, and potentially Broja, like Pice just mentioned. Guys, before we move on to a bit more speaking about Dewsbury-Hall, well, first of all, shout out Lewis. Cheers for the raid. Cheers everybody joining from Lewis's channel. Subscribe and hit that like button if you haven't done it already, and shout out you. Which player would you like most, like, kind of go the other way if anyone had to? Because for me, well, purely because Dewsbury-Hall is a midfielder, I would argue Casadei makes the most sense. Now, first of all, he doesn't really seem to suit what Maresca wants to do, the way I think the type of player that I think Casadei is anyway. And maybe he didn't really suit Maresca that much, but actually Leicester quite like him. That's why they want him now that Maresca is gone. So I think that one would make the most sense. But also, Casadei cost like, what, 19, 20 million pounds or euros at the time when we bought him, when he hadn't played a single professional game of football in his life. I don't see us making much profit out of it, but would he be the player you'd pick to send the other way, Ollie? Or do you not really care if it's Fofana or Broja? Like I say, for me, the reason I pick him mostly is because he's a midfielder as well, and we're just stacking the position even more if it isn't Casadei.
I don't know. I think Casadei probably does make a lot of sense, but like you say, I think the stumbling block there is the price. I think Casadei, really, we need to be selling for over 30 million. I don't think Leicester have the money for
never
that.
Happen. Not now,
yeah,
not in 2 years, by the way.
I don't think Leicester have the money for that. I don't think there's really any will to purchase Casadei for that much. I think it could be Broja. Makes sense for them in terms of a decent striker who's Premier League level, and someone who can act as a little bit more firepower up top.
Another striker alongside Jamie Vardy last season already. Like,
I don't know, but I don't know. Someone like Broja makes more sense. I personally wouldn't even I wouldn't send them Fofana. I actually quite like Fofana as a player. He seems like a decent one. I think eventually he's another one though that will be sold for profit in the end. But I think it's probably Casadei or like I said, maybe Broja. But I'm not sure who else would really fit the bill unless like one of our really talented youngsters wanted to go.
I mean, I would say Hutchinson, but obviously he's gone elsewhere now. So
so like unless you get like a shock thing where, like, I don't know, someone like Tyreek George decides that they want to leave, but I don't see that happening really.
Signed a new deal.
Would they want Tyreek George?
Yeah, exactly. He's just signed a new deal as well. So
yeah, exactly. Pice, where do you stand on this? Would it be Casadei? Would it be Broja? Would it be someone else that you'd like to send the other way if that is happening?
Probably send them anyone. Send any one of them. 100% be down for that. I think your logic makes the most sense. Like, he's a midfielder, get a midfielder off the books. Sell Casadei, and Ollie, we are 100% getting investigated if we get 30 mil for Casadei.
Yeah,
in the way we get that. We bought him for like 12 mil, and he's come off the bench like 3 times.
Yeah,
in the way we do that.
Just typical, isn't it? I will get to Marc Guiu, however you pronounce his name, later. I haven't seen this. I'll ask Pice about it when we get to it. Let me quickly bring up the transfer market page for Dewsbury-Hall. I keep saying Dewsbury as if there's an R, but there's not. Anyway, so like I say, 25 years old, turns 26 in September. And yeah, that's for me the most confusing bit, because every signing we've made so far, other than Tosin, who was a free agent, has been very young, with the exception of Nkunku, but Nkunku was at least elite, or is.
And Robert Sanchez, but he was kind of a make weight for Casadei.
Yeah, but first of all, it make weight, but also goalie is a bit different, because the ages work a bit different within goalies when you're decent, when you're too old and stuff like that. But still, 25 years old, like, it's not like I have an issue with signing a 25-year-old, not at all. Like I say, I think we should add a few more slightly older players. But the thing is, he's only played 2 seasons in the Prem. Now, he's had a very good season in the Championship, but his time in the Prem, at least in terms of output, wasn't particularly impressive. Now, sure, they've had different managers. They were a relegation team. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in the Championship now. So it's clearly explanations. But I compare it to numbers that Conor Gallagher had on loan at at West Brom in the Premier League, a team that also got relegated. His numbers were miles better than anything Dewsbury-Hall did until now. And the Conor Gallagher is nearly 2 years or 1.5 years younger than Dewsbury-Hall. Again, I'm not here trying to sit here that Conor Gallagher is necessarily so much better than Dewsbury-Hall. But Dewsbury-Hall
just makes it a weird. It just makes it a weird signing to make. Like, for me, it's like when you have someone like Gallagher, and ostensibly their games are pretty similar. Dewsbury-Hall's a little bit better on the technical side. His touch is a bit better. Gallagher's a little bit better out of possession, but ultimately their games are pretty similar. And so to sign a player who's maybe only a fraction of a bit better, who's going to be on the bench most of the time, and then you know, if Gallagher does go, I don't know, like Gallagher's a year and a half younger. There's no like, who's to say that in a year and a half Gallagher isn't much better than Dewsbury-Hall? You know, like, so exactly. I don't know.
I mean, sure, and me and Pice, and I think you were involved in it as well, Ollie, were like going back and forth in our group chat about this afternoon already, in terms of like, Pice doesn't think Gallagher will ever get there. Fair enough, but would Pice have thought Dewsbury-Hall would be the player that he looks like after this championship season before they ever play championship? I don't think many players would have thought that. Otherwise, how often do you see a very good player from a team that gets relegated not leave that team? How often does that happen? Like, I know Leicester obviously are financially a fairly strong team, so therefore when they get relegated, they were quite confident they'd go straight back up. They didn't have to necessarily sell everyone. But even still, the best ones usually go. And if he was that good, why didn't he go? Why is it only now that teams are interested? Man United, ourselves, whatever. It's just, I don't know, man. Like, if I click for the stats for all seasons here, and I go down to his Premier League seasons that he has had, you see it here: 21-22, 1 goal, 2 assists; 22-23, 2 goals, 2 assists. And he played a lot of games. Now, I don't know how many of these he started, to be fair, but looking at the numbers, 2,300 minutes, 2,100 minutes, that's a lot of minutes, you know, that's playing regularly. So, I don't know, man. Again, and I understand in terms of what Ollie said a second ago, right? Is he that much better? If you're selling Gallagher for 50 million and you signed Dewsbury for 30, and then you got a player who's very similar level, but you sold a pure profit player for 50, and then you signed a different player for 30, then you can make an argument from that perspective that, you know, from a financial perspective, if they're very similar in quality anyway, you're not doing a bad job here. But, and I keep emphasizing this, and I know people call me homosexuals for it, I don't really care. I think with everything that's happened at the club, with how much has changed, with how much of our identity has been ripped out, the only people that can keep that alive are the Cobham players, are the academy players. And Reece and Cobwell, first of all, they're not particularly vocal anyway, but neither of them are the most vocal people, in particular Reece James. Reece James doesn't even have the bollocks to apologise after getting a ridiculous red card and now missing our opening game against fucking Manchester City. So, like...
You're still really upset about that, aren't you?
I'm fuming about it still. I genuinely am. And if I ever meet Reece James, I will ask him, well, why did you not apologise? I want to know. Because, Conor Gallagher acted more like a captain all season than Reece James ever has, really. Even though I know Conor Gallagher also got himself sent off once when wearing the captain's armband. But at least that was 2 yellow cards, not just fucking kicking for absolutely no reason. It's because my point is, even if I don't want to sell Gallagher, let's say, okay, that's happening anyway, and we want to replace him in the team. Surely we could find someone better than a championship player, right? Like, I understand he played for Maresca and everything else, but surely if our aim is Champions League football, we should be aiming for a better replacement for Conor Gallagher than someone who's basically the same level, just maybe with slightly different strengths. Like, I just don't see what we're trying to aim at with that kind of signing. Like, Pice, I'm not sure how much of what you paid attention to what I've just been waffling on about, but how do you, like, obviously you said it in the group chat earlier in terms of you just think that he's better and everything else, but don't you see that point? It's like, okay, if you want to sell Gallagher, fair enough. Even like, let me just say, okay, I accept that, fair enough. But couldn't you replace him with someone better than Dewsbury-Hall then? Especially if there's even a small chance that Dewsbury-Hall could come in to be a starter?
No, because I just don't like the parallels. Because we want Champions League, we can't get a championship player. Like, what happens if... I'm not saying he's going to be another Cole Palmer. What happens if he completely outperformed your expectations? Because the talent idea of...
Bro, that's not comparable. Cole Palmer had basically not played. Cole Palmer was a risk in a sense that no one quite knew, or no one that didn't scout him, no one quite knew how good he was. Dewsbury-Hall is nearly 26. Like, if he was good enough, he'd have been at that level already, no?
No, I disagree, because Mendy was, 27 and won the best goalkeeper in the world.
And he's
do you think we couldn't get...
That's not a bad thing. but you're less
feel like
likely to hit English prime football compared
Price,
to when you're English.
Price, do you realistically think we couldn't get anybody better?
I mean, in terms of centre mid, sure we could, but I don't like putting the signing off because he's from the Championship. I think that's really basic.
I agree that that's kind of surface level stuff, but like at the same time, like we've seen what he can do in the Premier League, and what he can do in the Premier League isn't that much. Now he might be better. He might have improved under Maresca, but still, there's still that question of like whether he's good, whether he's been better than someone who we could go and get from, say, Serie A or La Liga or somewhere else, where actually they're a top player playing top football for about the same amount of time, done a better job, you know?
Okay, but then they haven't worked under Maresca when this guy literally spent a whole season, so doesn't have to. By the way, Dewsbury-Hall won't take any time to adapt because he knows the system and has played 2 seasons in the Premier League.
Within 6 months, though, that will be irrelevant because everyone will know the system.
No, I disagree. Actually, I think there's a good chance.
But for example, did Liverpool sign a single?
I think there's a good chance
Maresca player from Dortmund or from Mainz. No, I don't even think Bayern. I don't like. Obviously, the whole De Bruyne thing happened, but I don't think City signed a single player from Bayern either. So, like, why is this just because he was Maresca's player last year? Why does that mean we have to sign him? I don't see.
I'm just not a fan of saying because we want Champions League, we can't get a Championship midfielder. Like
no, and I completely agree with you on that, Price. But like, I'm not sure that him knowing Maresca is going to be a long-term benefit.
Because I agree, for the first few months of the season, that will probably work, and it will do him well in probably getting potentially a starting spot in the team, and it will maybe also help a few players catch on to the system a bit quicker. So there is certainly a couple of positives to that. But we're handing out 7-8 year contracts. It's not like we're loaning him out for a season. If we were like, okay, let's loan Dewsbury-Hall for a season, see if he's good enough, and then we sign him permanently. And if he's not, at least we had him on loan to help everybody settle in with what Maresca is doing. That would make, as much as I wouldn't like it still, that would at least make more sense for me. Because I mean, I see this comment here by Ahmed. We don't have a single player in our squad that can provide goals and assists. He can from CM. Yeah, except that Gallagher did it. Except that Gallagher has had 10-folds goals and assist contribution in the Premier League compared to Dewsbury-Hall.
But the thing is as well is
play for West Brom. He played for a poor Palace. Do you know what I mean? And we were 10.
I don't think he. But the thing is I think that's a bit of a silly comment because ultimately who's going to be the person getting goals and assists from that left hand side spot? It's supposed to be Enzo Fernandez. He's the one who's supposed to be playing most of the time. So if we're signing KDH, it's going to be. Surely he's going to be a bench player. Surely.
But is that a bad thing though? Like
no, that's a good thing. I would prefer him that than to him starting, because then like if he's starting, then he's benching one of Enzo or Caicedo, and that seems like a mistake.
Whatever you think about Gallagher, look, we get someone 25-30 million pounds, knows the Premier League, suits the system, is a bit older. He's English. Like, it's not. I don't see the negatives of the transfer. To be honest, like, there's not many negatives. The one big negative is
except that we don't know if we will be able to sell Gallagher, and if not, we've just sat here with a stacked midfield.
I think we get to a point. I think what we're trying to do is, with this side especially, I think we're getting to the point where we're going to try and piss Gallagher off so much that he thinks he's going to decide to leave by himself. I think that's probably the club's plan, to be honest with you.
Nothing's going to happen with him until after the Euros anyway.
See how that went.
Yeah, well,
they tried that last year, and then all of a sudden, Podge was like, "Oh shit, he's actually good. I want to play him every game." I know, very different manager. I'm very aware. Very different.
You guys know.
But they still thought that same thing last summer, though. And you also thought the same thing last summer, Pice. That Gallagher's nowhere near good enough. He will never play anyway. So obviously we have to sell him. Turns out he played every game. Do you know what I mean? You didn't see that coming. Neither did I, I'll be honest. But none of us saw it coming.
But this time, what happens if Chelsea directors say, "Well, Gallagher, if you don't leave, then you're not playing. We're putting you. You're going to train like
maybe they will do that." But is that a good idea with how the fan base in the stadium in particular reacts? I don't know.
To be fair, I think if they
won't know that though, will they? They won't know that what's happening.
If they did say that to
you'll
Gallagher,
make sure they will. That's your whole job.
If Gallagher's agent is worth a penny of what he's paying him, he would just tell him to sit on it for a year anyway, and then go for free and then like quadruple his money.
It can't though, because Chelsea might genuinely go, "Look, you're not playing. Like, you don't fit. You're not in our plans. Like, just leave," sort of thing. Like, you're not going to get.
And if I'm Gallagher, I say, "Okay, I'll leave next year when my contract runs out."
Well, then he's just an idiot. And he's just
No,
an idiot.
because he's going to leave for free and get
He's gonna
4
make
times the
himself
money he's on now.
3 times the
But
money.
then he's
Not
an idiot because he's just sitting on the bench for a year and not playing.
But
so.
making
If-
3 times the money
if-
next year. You'd
In
be
your
doing the
opinion,
same
he
if you
wasn't
were
going to
him.
play anyway.
What?
Yeah.
Pies, in your opinion, he wasn't going to play anyway. So what's the difference between him not playing and being on the bench and not playing and just being in the reserves for a year?
Well, when I mean not playing, I mean literally, like, if he refuses to leave, I genuinely think there's a chance the sporting directors go, Maresca, don't play him at all.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, there's no doubt they would say that. But if I'm Gallagher, in that situation, I just say okay, and then I sit on my contract for a year, and then go and then go for free and sign a sign-on deal for stupid money.
Well, if he wants to do that, it's up to him, isn't it? But he won't be playing.
It
I
is.
don't reckon.
I'm just saying there is that risk that happens. So therefore, there is a potential negative attached to this signing, if that makes sense. I mean, there's
Also,
people saying like, "Oh,
I know- I
we
know
see how
pe-
well that worked out for Mount," but
I know
that's my
people
whole
are
point.
saying. I know people are like assuming immediately that Gallagher isn't going to play, and Pice, you're quite a big proponent of this, and to be fair, I do see your arguments with it.
I think that's why they're trying
But
to sell it, honestly.
what
Actually, yeah, go
I
on.
was just going to say, what happens if Maresca comes in and after a few games, Gallagher's starting? Like, because that's what he's done with every single manager he's ever had, is he's played his way into the starting 11.
Well, look, what I will tell you is, from speaking to people behind the scenes, what I'll tell you is Chelsea are very controlling and they want certain players to play. And the whole reason why Maresca's come in, and I mean, to be fair, it was the idea with Poch as well, is that in these interviews, they get told, look, you need to build around this player. Are you willing to do that? If so, yes. How are you going to do it? Yada, yada, yada. And essentially, Enzo has accepted this job because he's been told to build around the likes of Lavia, Enzo, Caicedo, Palmer, not Conor Gallagher. So if he then goes and
Not
builds around
Dewsbury-Hall
Conor Gallagher, well, he might...
He's got a point, isn't he?
I've got a point now. No, but to be fair though, I don't think. Well, I mean, he fits what the club want more than Gallagher, in my opinion. Anyway,
Yeah, no, and he does, and that's not
what I
wrong.
was gonna
Like,
say.
I don't even disagree with that sentiment. I just think, okay, if you're looking for someone that suits the whole thing better than Gallagher, and we're making this like again, if Palmer isn't the one playing there, who will play either the left or the right 8, right? Like, who will be those people? If it's not Palmer, it will be Caicedo one, and then who will be the other? Like,
And Kunku,
I don't
maybe?
know. I mean,
Kunku?
maybe.
Dewsbury-Hall?
But if you're
I
signing
think
Kunku,
it should be Enzo Enzo Fernandez, in my opinion.
Oh,
I know
fuck
people want to
no,
play.
that
I know people want to play him deeper.
No,
It's a stupid idea.
no, Ollie, no, no. Please
Vice
don't
is not
do this
happy.
to me.
It's a
Please
stupid
do not
idea.
do this to me, bro. Please don't do
Oh,
Enzo at 8 again, please.
I think Enzo's shooting last season has done enough to tell me I don't want him as the
God,
attacking.
no, bro. I was watching.
You want him close.
Argentina
You want
the
him
other
close to goal, though. Like, you don't
No,
want him
no,
just
no,
pinging
no.
40-yard balls all the time.
Yes, you do. That's exactly what you want Enzo.
No,
to
you
do.
don't. You want him closer
You
to
do.
him so he
No,
can
you
be
don't, 'cause
creative.
He can't fucking shoot.
No,
Can't
like right,
fucking
okay,
shoot.
really good
And
example.
Enzo's like Cruz
Remember,
and Pirlo. You don't want them high up. You want
right,
them.
Enzo should play. Enzo's role should be exactly how Tony Cruz plays for Germany. That's how it should be.
Right, but look at for example, the player you really like, Yao Felix, right? Remember that one goal that Enzo assisted to him where he lifts it over the defense and he knocks it in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He doesn't do that if he's 40 yards away. Do you see
No,
my point?
But Enzo can from deeper can start like 10 plus attacks per game because of his pinpoint.
But he
passing
can
from
also
deeper.
get forward and finish those attacks
Nah,
and help finish
nah.
those attacks. He's a box-to-box midfielder, bro.
No, I don't see it. I don't see it.
No,
I don't think
I
he's got a
agree.
leg
That,
for it
I
either.
agree that Enzo's very best is probably as a box-to-box midfielder, where he can first sit deeper, help start the attack, and then as the ball moves up, without him, he follows up and then can be in and around the box to help create. But if you have enough other good players to do that, you can just let him focus on the classes as a name. Sorry, he has a higher influence to be deeper to start attacks. Also gets caught out less with a slight lack of pace when we are caught in transition. Just to get back to this comment about Donny, whatever, because that worked for Mount too, right? But that's my whole thing. You all expecting Dewsbury-Hall to be amazing for us. It's like Man United expecting Mount to be great for them. Leicester is his boyhood club. He will never be as good for us as he was for them in principle. Just like Mount will never be as good for Man United as he was for us. And the same Gallagher will probably never be as good for anyone other than he was for us last season. Probably never, right? Because people don't agree with it. But you just try harder. Whether you like it or not, you just try harder. And trying isn't such a big part of football. And I want to touch on one thing. I saw something, and this is probably a bit random to everybody listening and everybody with me on the stream now. But so on Tuesday, right, I watched the German TV broadcast from after whatever the England game, but they were also talking about other things. And they had Christoph Kramer there. A lot of you might not know him. He won the World Cup with Germany in 2014. If you remember, he was the guy that got knocked out during the game. And then, he was the guy, if you heard of it, he doesn't even remember the actual final because of what happened. Regardless, he was there as like a pundit after the game. He still plays for Mönchengladbach now. And he was talking about one of the most important things in football, in his opinion, is hierarchy. And by hierarchy, doesn't mean at the football club, he means within the team. And he gave one example that he gave of that Germany team of that World Cup is that after the round of 16, they put Per Mertesacker on the bench. And Per Mertesacker at the time had 104 caps for the national team. But then when he was put on the bench, sat on the bench without a single moan, without a single complaint about anything. And Christoph Kramer explained how much of a big impact that has on the other players that, everybody's listening to what's happening here. No one's complaining. No one has a go. And then also on the pitch, who's in charge. There is hierarchy there, and that plays a big role in when blame is attributed, when how you stand up to difficult positions. When everybody is just the same, it doesn't work like that. Imagine if you had an army and you didn't have a lieutenant, but you just had soldiers. Nothing would ever happen. And that's sometimes what I feel like what Chelsea does. And I didn't really think about it as such until he explained it. But I felt like, well, if a footballer says hierarchy is important, who am I to say it's not? And I just feel like the fact that also, I'm not sure if you guys have seen, but Chelsea women's are supposedly interested in Lucy Bronze, who, sure, some people are saying, should we even get her? We have the Canadian, I forget her first name, Lawrence already in the team. But how is the women's team trying to sign Lucy Bronze? One of the best English players potentially in history, but most certainly in recent times. And the Chelsea men's team are trying to apply championship players. And I know championship players, I know that makes it sound a bit harsh, but he's still a championship player, whether you like it or not. And his only really good season in his whole life at being 25 has been in the championship. I don't care what people say, he's better than Gallagher, he's better than this. But Gallagher has had good seasons in the Prem. Dewsbury-Hall has not. Like, it's just true. Whether you like it or not, it's just true. What can I say, man? I didn't choose that Dewsbury-Hall wasn't better in the Prem. It's not me that did that. It's him. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. But hey, there's not much we can do about it. Let's see what happens, I suppose. It's going to be interesting how much he goes for in the end. As a last question on this topic, and I'll start with you, Ollie. What fee for Dewsbury-Hall would you accept or be okay with?
I think anything over 25 million would be absolute daylight robbery, to be honest. I really do. I think he probably will go for more than that. I think I've seen things saying it'd be about 30, 35. And that might be all right for some people. But for me, as someone who ostensibly thinks we don't need him, anything over 25 million would be absolute robbery.
Fair dues. There's someone in the chat said, but he's also played in Europe. Okay, he's played 7 whole games in a Conference League and scored 1 goal. For a team in Leicester
what a goal.
Sorry? Yeah, scored a goal. For a team in Leicester that obviously through the Premier League qualified for said Conference League, should be the best team involved. But, they were not. But yeah, that's a separate thing. Pice, same question for you. What price for Dewsbury-Hall would you be okay with? Would you be happy with if you want to, if it came to it?
Tops 30 mil, I think. Tops.
Fair. Oh, true. He did also actually play Europa League. So he played the whole 4 games there, but doesn't that make the whole thing look worse? The fact that Premier League
that's the experience that the board think we need. His Conference League experience.
191 Europa League minutes. That's going to do it. But that means Leicester were a Europa League team that season where Dewsbury-Hall scored 1 goal and got 2 assists.
Yep.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Imagine a midfielder at Chelsea. We're a Conference League team now. Imagine we had a midfielder with 1 goal, 1 assist.
The thing is, I don't feel
easy.
super comfortable in judging him by those stats. Though,
no, neither do I. But people bring it
last
up
season, even though he was in the Championship, he has done much better. And we do know that the Championship translates well as a league to the Premier League. We know that. So it seems his game has gone up a level.
It has. Players do develop over time. Why can't Gallagher? Weird.
It's a good question.
I don't know why. But yeah, I understand everyone has their own opinions on Gallagher. And again, I don't even disagree that Dewsbury-Hall might be a better player and might be a better suited player to what we're trying to do. But if he's going to be sat on the bench, I know which type of player I'd prefer to bring off the bench. An energy workhorse rather than someone who's got a good touch. We've got plenty of people with a good touch. We don't need to sign more of them. But, you know...
How funny would it be?
Sorry?
I was saying, how funny would it be if he's like one of our most important players next season?
Oh, yeah. Look, to be fair, if he is, I'll hold my hands up.
I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, you know, that didn't go the way I wanted to or whatever else. That's not how I like to work. Like, none of us saw Cole Palmer being as good as he was, but he still turned out to be that good. But the problem is, like, you also, that's my thing. You mentioned I mentioned Cole Palmer there. Potentially, Dewsbury-Hall signing could harm Cole Palmer in the team because now he has to play winger rather than being an 8, which he would arguably be better for.
What it tells me is that either Maresca isn't as good as we think he is in that case, or he's planning to switch it up based on the players that we actually have in the team. Like, so he's going to have a slightly new strategy. And I think that's important. I think managers should be doing that. They shouldn't be just sticking to all their principles all the time. They need to work with the players they have at their disposal. At the end of the day, players are tactics. You know, good players will make you play a certain way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even when I spoke to like the Leicester fans, they said like he has in terms of plan A, he's very strong in his plan A, but he has lots of variations of plan A. So that his idea is not to get to a point where he has to do a plan B, where he has to change and go to go against his principles of football. So, you know, like he may play like a 3-2-5 where he inverts the right back, or sometimes he inverted the left back. Sometimes he, you know, did something different, and then he settled on something which was like the 3-2-5 during the season. So, yeah, I don't necessarily think, you know, although we're thinking it might be this, you know, 3 centre backs, 2 in front, 2 8s, a winger, 2 winger, and a striker. It might not be that. It might be something completely different. You know, like for example,
I kind of hope it is. You know, like I kind of want to see him do something that he didn't do at Leicester. Do you know what I mean?
We're getting like out and out left back links, but you know, all the fans are like, well, shouldn't we want a left centre back to play left back because that's what he did with Leicester? You know, someone like a Calafiori, a Hincapié, or someone like that. But what happens if we get like an 8 Nori out of nowhere? Well, that means we're not doing what he did last season. So.
Or it means the sport directors again don't care what the manager does and wants.
Yeah, maybe they want him. Maybe they want him to play a certain way. Who knows? Maybe they want him to play a certain formation, and he has to deliver within that formation with the players.
4-4-3, guys.
You know, maybe they do want that, and that is why I criticize them so much. I mean, Vic says, you kept saying championship player, but he's got more Premier League experiences than Chukwuemeka. Chukwuemeka is 20 and spent a whole year injured. So.
And is arguably a better talent.
Nearly 26 has got more Premier League appearances than a 20-year-old who's been injured for a season. Well, isn't that fucking amazing? Means he wins the Ballon d'Or next year, good old Dewsbury-Hall, doesn't it? Fucking hell, man. It's ridiculous. Anyway, we had this report here from Di Marzio. Official negotiations between Milan and Chelsea. Milan aims to have an option to buy for Conor Gallagher. Now, Fabrizio Romano very quickly killed that one again. By saying Chelsea are not letting Conor Gallagher leave on loan. If we do let him leave, it's on a permanent if a big or a good offer does come in. Pice, this is what very quickly changed your tune from when we were initially arguing or going back and forth in the group chat. You were saying, yeah, you know, better than Gallagher, blah, blah, blah. But as soon as it was like, potentially, the replacement could be for Carney, you were like, oh, no. And not just you. All of Twitter. Everyone was...
honestly.
Everyone kind of went, wait, what?
As soon as it was Carney, you're like, no, we can't do this. How can we do this? But in a sense, it's true. Because is Dewsbury-Hall a better dribbler than Carney? No. Does he have a better touch than Carney? No. The only thing he maybe does have is a better injury record. That's the one thing I will give him. But again, the one's nearly 26 and Carney is 20, man. Do you know what I mean? 20. But yeah, the way this report obviously looks like, it doesn't look like it's going to happen unless Milan all of a sudden actually make a good bid. But it's an Italian club, so chances of them making a good bid quite small. But yeah, Pice, elaborate why for Carney it felt so much different to you compared to if it's a potential Gallagher replacement. But also, does this update from Fabrizio rule it out again to you that it could be for Chukwuemeka?
I have eyes. That's what I'd say. Like, I have eyes. I think he's a very good player. I think he's a very good dribbler. I think connecting between the lines, he's just
It
really
was
good.
also Carney, by the way, that scored the winner for us against Maresca's Leicester in the FA Cup.
I know, like, he literally dunked on his head top, and like, now we might be getting rid of him. Like, get the fuck out of it, Chelsea. Honestly, like,
maybe Maresca's
don't
just a bit
piss me off.
salty. Maybe that's
Yeah, he's coming.
Don't
And he's like,
annoy
he's
me,
got to
man.
go.
Like,
I'm sorry.
not this guy.
Nah, Carney is one of my favourite players in the squad. When he gets to play, I love watching him play. Honestly, I think when we was getting battered at Anfield, and him and Nkunku came on, and literally like it was the only time in the game we could link up going forward. We were like, hang on a minute, we actually look all right when Carney came on, because he gets the ball, he drives through the lines, he breaks the lines, he connects with attackers so well. And he's just a brilliant player. Like, I really do rate him. So if he's going on loan and Dewsbury-Hall's coming in, then fuck off. Honestly, like, it will annoy me for sure. Because
yeah, it will annoy me too.
Chelsea fan base, Chelsea fan base is annoying me, because the other thing I was going to say is that they're like, well, he gets injured all the time. What? So you're just going to go fucking get rid of Reece James and Nkunku, Lavia, and the rest of the fucking squad that gets injured?
Well, they probably would.
Some people would argue that. I would.
And then buy the whole Leicester team because they're amazing.
We should be working on our medical department and working to help these players, not fucking get rid of them because they're injury prone. Like, for fuck's sake, it's ridiculous. Like, I don't understand.
At least, maybe we should get our own. You know how we have like a football academy? Maybe we should get like a doctor academy, so we at least have homegrown doctors. If we can't have homegrown players, at least have homegrown doctors. Do you know what I mean?
Chelsea secure £17 million deal for 7-year-old doctor. So you can headlines write themselves.
Let's get rid of Carney because he can't stay fit. Like, shut up, honestly. So annoying.
Do you reckon Ivanovic managed to get Eva Canero pregnant? Maybe got someone there. I don't know. Nah, I doubt it. Sorry, that was a slightly out of touch joke. But yeah, Carney Juggle, mate. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen, but I hope it doesn't. I mean, Ollie, where do you stand? Would it annoy you more if it was to replace Carney than it would?
Yeah,
this
would very sufficiently piss me off. I really like Carney. Like I said on our podcast yesterday that for me, he's someone who really needs to play next season. And so if he gets a injury or a setback, my patience with him will kind of wear thin. But having said that, whenever he does play, he's a needle mover. You know, he's a really, really strong player for us. Like we've seen it whenever he's been able to play, he's really made a difference. And not every player who we've bought in, and lots of other players who we have bought in for a lot more money than him, haven't been able to do that. So for me, if you're taking him out and you're bringing Dewsbury-Hall in, straight downgrade for me.
Yeah, I mean, Muhaba is comparing him to Steve Sidwell and Danny Drinkwater. I mean, Danny Drinkwater did look like a good player at Leicester, and I'm sure he looked like a good player in the Championship. Yeah, but I'm not going to be that harsh. I think he's better than those two. But yeah, see, like I say, you guys, I'm trying to be positive. I'm just also trying to also make people that don't seem to look at any negatives also realize, yes, mate, there are positives, but people seem to just ignore that there are negatives and risks and concerns with it as well. And I just don't really understand why people are doing that. Gon, you were trying to say something?
I was just saying, away from Chelsea, Ornstein's just tweeted that Man U want to sign De Ligt, which is interesting.
Oh, I mean, I don't really want us to sign Directive for me, but to be honest, but yeah, it's just a weird one. Like, he's just going to cost so much money. He's on such ridiculous wages at Bayern. There's no way he's going to take a drastic wage cut. So you just know he would never come to Chelsea anyway. Like with Olise, I mean, like we have learned if someone wants wages more than £3 a week, we're not getting them. So have to deal with it. Wonder why we're signing Championship players and not Olise. But yeah, that's its whole separate issue. Now, a couple of people in the chat pies have asked about Marc Guiu. Now, again, he's a striker. We got here we go for a couple of days ago. He has a €6 million release clause to Barcelona. In Spain, that works quite straightforwardly. You say we're triggering this. There's nothing they can do about it. And yeah, we've like I said, we got the here we go. Initially, it was said that he would be playing for Chelsea next season. Now, according to, I've lost his name, unfortunately. Where is he? Oh, yeah. Mickey said he's supposedly joining Sevilla, not Villa. Is that a thing, Pice, that you have heard about as well? Or is Mickey the only one that has heard that one?
Someone sent me the report. I don't know who the hell the journalist is. So, I mean, we'll wait and see. I think it's a possibility he could get loaned into Spain again. I mean, it makes sense, you know.
I think the Spanish media are reporting it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll look into it. But No, I don't think he'll stay in. I think he'll get loaned after. Like, I think we'll have a look at him in pre-season. But I think, like, staying in pre-season or staying next season is just really premature. I think, considering we're still after another striker, it means it's almost like, well, if we don't get the striker we want, sort of thing, then maybe he stays. But if we find someone we're looking for, then he'll go on loan. That's kind of how I read it at the time.
Yeah, that could well be the case. Now, obviously, Fabrizio added at the top of the here we go saying Guiu has completed medical test as new Chelsea player in London. The release clause, obviously, we touched on already, and he will sign a contract or has signed a contract until 2030. See, this is the kind of signing that I have absolutely no problem with. £6 million, seems quite talented, did already something at Barcelona, got a couple of games, scored a couple of goals. £6 million, very little risk to this. Very potential, like a big potential upside if it does work out. Also, what I've seen that are supposedly his strengths: great finishing, good in the air, very strong, very quick, presses a lot. It sounds good to me. What I find strange about it is that I'm like, but now we want another striker anyway. But that striker isn't going to be 28, 30, or 32. That other striker is also going to be between 18 and 22. So what's the point again? I know profit, but where are these people going to get the game time from to be sold for profit? Ask Cesare Casadei. He's like the best proof that we have an issue with this, that we will not get all of these players enough game time that they increase their value so we can actually sell them for profit. And how many of them are we? Because we tried this under the old ownership as well sometimes. Sign young players, loan them out, sell them for profit. That didn't always work out. Why do people just expect it to randomly work out now? I don't know. From what I've heard, and the way Xavi spoke about him, obviously now ex-Barca manager, I don't see why you wouldn't make him the third choice striker going into the season. Why not? Like, why not? I don't see why we shouldn't be doing that. Like, we still don't know where Nkunku's going to play. Could be an 8, could be left wing, could be up front, but we don't know. He's going to have to fucking play somewhere. So if you buy an actual other striker, then okay, then you're essentially taking striker as an option for Nkunku away again. And the more of these kind of signings you make, and we're apparently also looking for a right-footed winger as well, which would also take Nkunku playing left wing out of the scenario. So again, where does he play? So the more of these kind of signings we make, the more pointless. The biggest signing we've made in terms of ability at the time of signing in the whole ownership. It just none of this makes any sense to me. But Guiu, I do actually quite like, and I don't have any issue with that kind of signing. What about you, Ollie?
Yeah, no issue with it. It's 6 million, so like it's peanuts really for any kind of signing like that. Like he's played for Barcelona's first team. He scored a couple good goals as well. Like obviously on his debut, scored after like 20 seconds or something like that when he came on. So it's a player who knows where the goal is. Clearly scored. I don't know if anyone else has seen it, but there's this one goal where someone whips it in from a corner and he like almost like scorpion back heels it into the net, and it's a really good goal. Like, so he seems to have that kind of instinct for goal. That's really good. And then just to go back to what you were saying about the having lots of young players and things like that, I think the nature of the beast as well is you got to remember like transfer fee inflation is a thing. Like 10 years ago, you buy a first team player for 32 million. Right now, a first team player is at least 50, 60 million. In another 10 years, it might be 100 million.
Sure, except for the championship, then they might only be 30 million.
Exactly. But like, so for someone like him, for example, someone like Guiu, it might be 6 million, but even transfer fee inflation, like over a year, even if he didn't play at all, he'd probably go for 15, wouldn't he? 20, something like that, And it was only 6 million because I think it was the release clause anyway. But so yeah, I've no issues with this one. Seems a really quality player, and I agree with you. I think to a certain degree, maybe he could actually be the third choice striker. I wouldn't mind him going on loan either, but yeah, I'd like to see what the kid can do in pre-season.
Yeah, that's true. Obviously, maybe I'll change my mind after I see him in preseason. If he looks bad in preseason, maybe I don't think he should be third choice striker anymore. But as of now, I do think that. Pies, where do you stand on it? Would you like to keep Guiu as a third choice striker? Would you prefer to send him out on loan? What do you think of the signing in general?
Never watched him, to be honest with you. I can't say whether I'd keep him or not. One thing I would say is, but a lot of Barca fans were crying about this. So maybe he's a decent talent. Although one Barca fan messaged me and said, bro, like they do this with every academy player. So it kind of sounds like our fans in a sense. They just don't like academy players leaving. So maybe that's the case. So I'm not sure. But from the clips I've seen, he actually looks like a pretty decent player, to be fair.
Yeah.
So
considering he's 18 as well, I think especially physically, I think he's most impressive.
He's
for
big.
how young he is.
he's 6'2", but he's built like he's fucking built.
And he
for a
like
game,
if you're
like,
6'2" at 18, there's a chance he adds another inch or two by the time he's finished growing as well.
he
So
looks,
like,
he does look like. Funny enough, he looks like the profile we were initially apparently looking for, and then we had Jonathan David links, and then like
I wonder if
Samu, this guy.
I wonder if he literally was the striker of that profile we were looking for. Maybe if we just wanted a different profile and that was it, and now it doesn't matter about Duran or anyone else in that kind of profile because we got Guiu now.
I think this is just an opportunity signing,
Guiu,
in my opinion.
yeah,
I think it's one that will probably flip on for some sort of profit, but I don't know.
I'd like to see what he can do.
That's the thing, isn't it? Like some of these signings, it feels like yes, we think they're maybe quite talented, but it's not even like we signed them and think, okay, if you're good enough, you're going to be here. If you don't turn out to be that good, we're going to try to sell you. It feels like we sign players already when we sign them, knowing you will never really play for us and be sold for profit. And that's just, I just don't like that kind of approach. I have no issues with signing young players. And if they don't turn out good enough, or you have too many in that position in your first team, then you sell them. I have no issue with that. But signing players from the get-go, already knowing you never want to have them really, like, I would love to know, like, these players and these agents, what we sell them, what we tell them that they get convinced by these. Because I'm like, if I'm a player and Chelsea approach me, I would literally laugh at them. I'm like, why on earth would I go to you? Like, why would I do that to myself? Like, especially if you're someone like we. Like, if you're coming from South America, like a Kendrick Paez or an Esteban, and you're guaranteeing, like, generations to come, of your family, like their futures with a big money move to Europe, which from South America is much more difficult to get than if you're already in the Barca Academy. I get it. But if you are coming out of the Barca Academy, why would you choose us? I don't know. But we've had a weird, somewhat surprising tweet from Chelsea as we're live here. Hakim Ziyech has completed a permanent transfer to Galatasaray. Wishing you all the best.
Because he was on loan with an obligation of £0, wasn't he? From
exactly. So that's what happened. But I just want to quickly give a minute of silence to good old Darmesh, because good old Darmesh, our lovely friend, he's all season has still been going on about how we should give Hakim Ziyech another chance, and how he's still not officially left, so we have to still give him another chance. So that's quite funny. Yeah, that is quite funny. Omari chose us and it worked out for him. Did it? He went from Arsenal to Chelsea to now being at Ipswich. I'm sure.
Do you know what I really like about Amari is when you think about it, we effectively stole 20 million of pure profit from Arsenal. That's essentially what we did.
I agree. Arsenal actually get money from it though, don't they? I don't know how much, but they got
3 million. According to Rob, the journalist, they get £3 million if we sell him for this 20 million pounds plus obviously add-ons. So I guess that, but yeah, that is the other topic to talk about. Omari Hutchinson to Ipswich Town on a permanent deal from Chelsea. Here we go. Agreement in place for 22.5. Well, Simon Johnson said 20 million base fee plus 2.5 million pounds in add-ons. Included, as expected, Chelsea will not have a buyback clause, but there will be a sell-on clause. Yeah. I don't know. I would have liked to seen him given a chance at Chelsea and then make the decision to sell him. But I also understand the way that we need pure profit. People call me a homosexual. Hutchinson isn't even from Cobham, so I'm not going to be too sad. Is what it is. But he looks like an absolute wonderful player and scored some banging goals for Ipswich last season. And like I say, I wish we would have seen him given a chance at Chelsea, but unfortunately, that's not quite how Chelsea work anymore these days. But yeah, otherwise, there's a few smaller bits and bobs. Obviously, there is obviously the stuff that we supposedly are looking for: a left-footed defender, whether that means centre-back or left-back or a hybrid of the two. Fabrizio keeps hyping up Calafiori. Pice, realistically, you and me both, we're not getting Calafiori, are we? Like, everyone wants him right now. We don't get the players everyone wants anymore, do we? Just, again, ask Olise.
I actually think there's a weird chance we could go big for him, because we kind of did the same with Enzo after a tournament. Fab's saying keep a close eye on us because we're looking for a left-footed player, a left-footed defender, and Calafiori is one of the best around at the moment in the world. So, I mean, I don't think he'd be on crazy wages. He'd probably be 50-60 million pounds. Mate, I could see this one.
He won't be on crazy wages necessarily from where he's been now, but he might be offered much crazier wages by someone else than he will be by us.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with this is the competition. If Liverpool and Arsenal are in, then they go offer more wages and we don't get him. So that's my whole problem with this wage policy bullshit.
Exactly. And I do really wonder, if whenever, I'm not as confident as other people that we will make it this season, but if we ever get back in the Champions League, whether we will then increase wages or not, that I'm really, really, really intrigued by how that will necessarily.
Don't they? I mean, some of the players automatically get increases. I think.
Yeah, no, I know exactly, but then if we hand out new contracts when we're back in the Champions League, because obviously like Enzo, right? A lot of people always see that Enzo is supposed to do 180k. I think that was only because we were in the Champions League when we signed him. Without Champions League football, as far as I know, at least, and as far as I knew from at the time, everything you see now says he's on around 180k. But from at the time, I still remember so vividly. I can't remember which journalist though. Someone saying that players, including Enzo Fernandez, will be on less money without Champions League football. So again, let's see how it goes. I want to touch on something quickly, Pies, that you said earlier in terms of whether we think our squad was already good enough to get top 4 last season, because obviously in the end we only finished quite, what was it, 4 points in the end from it, and obviously then that means we clearly could have achieved it with a few less silly results that we got. But I think there's a difference between saying a squad could have achieved something and the squad should achieve something, because the squad could have achieved it by overperforming in certain ways, and not necessarily as a team overperforming, but overperforming as individuals, because Cole Palmer most certainly overperformed. Even Nicholas Jackson in the end, really, for who he is and what he's been before Chelsea, kind of overperformed from what a lot of people expect in terms of output, right? So, and if those two players don't overperform, we're nowhere near Champions League football. So that's why I wouldn't say our team is good enough to have Champions League football. I think it's good enough to overperform itself to Champions League football, but I think the base level is not top 4 level. I think the other teams that made top 4 are better than we are.
I disagree.
But obviously, there's Aston Villa, which is a bit in pure talent. Maybe they're not better, but they just have more experience in their team, which just plays a role across the league season more so than it does for one-off games. The last bit that I wanted to bring up was Matt Law also got himself involved in all the weird briefs today because no Euros games, so everybody's talking about transfer news. So Matt Law said even after Marc Guiu, Chelsea are in the market for another striker. They want a right-footed winger and also a left back. Obviously, we touched on all of those things already, but just because earlier someone in the chat was again very adamant that Nkunku will play as the left winger. If we're buying a right-footed winger, really, unless we're signing another one from the Championship to be a backup, how do you see this going, Pies? Like, what kind of striker, right-footed winger, and left back, if that's even an out-and-out left back and not this left centre back hybrid that we're looking for? What kind of players do you think we're looking for in these positions? Like, especially with the striker situation, like Osimhen isn't happening, and then like there was a few other strikers that we in the end decided against, whether that was too expensive or too old or too God knows what. What kind of players do you think, like, is it just going to be another one similar to Marc Guiu, another striker, or someone more proper? What do you reckon?
Wait, in terms of striker or just in the winger?
Striker, but also right-footed winger and left back.
Yeah, the winger one I don't understand. I mean, I was on my own stream last night. It was just doing my head in because I was moving players about and I couldn't figure out why we needed a winger because we have Sterling and Mudryk for the left. Even if you want to say Palmer and Madueke for the right, okay, you've got that. But if you want to move Palmer in the middle, maybe you need a right winger. But then, Sterling could also play on the right and Nkunku on the left. It just doesn't. Like, where does Nkunku play? Like, that's the thing for me. Because if Nkunku plays on the left, then we've got 3 left wingers. If Sterling moves over to the right, then we've got 3 right wingers unless Palmer moves centrally. But if Palmer then moves centrally, then where the fuck does Dewsbury-Hall and, Caicedo and all these players? It's just confusing, man. It's just confusing. Hopefully it works out for itself.
For me, that's why Olise made sense. Because if you move Palmer to an 8, then you need a first choice right winger. Yeah. And can Madueke be really good in the Maresca? I actually believe he can. But do I think he's quite good enough as of now to be our main right winger going into the season? I don't really think so. So for me, signing someone like Olise is the kind of signing that would have made the most sense in our attacking areas, because or you turn Sterling into a permanent right winger in the team because Sterling on the right is more of a touchline winger than he is off the left, because on the left he wants to cut inside, while on the right he stays more wide. So I guess if that's the logic, then you add a right-footed winger for the left side. But yeah, I have similar questions. But But yeah, and the left back situation, Pies, do you see that more of it's going to be one of these hybrids rather than an actual out-and-out left back?
I mean, I hope so, because I think if we do play like a 3 on the ball, and you invert the right back, you have 3 centre backs on the ball, and
but
then
we
the
could
left
also obviously invert the left side, right?
We could do that. But then I think you've got the perfect player then Cucurella already, to be honest with you. So,
you could argue a backup for Cucurella in doing that, I suppose. That's what you could look at.
Yeah, but then, I mean,
I don't think you're looking at a level of
like,
that kind of level of player with Calafiori. You know, that I don't think they're coming in to be a backup, that kind of player.
Calafiori also wouldn't be an inverted.
And as well, you got Badiashile who can kind of play that role. You got Colwill who can kind of play that role as well. Like, so it's, I don't know. I feel like we've got a lot of cover there.
Badiashile, do they? Otherwise, they wouldn't be looking at a player in those areas. But
he seems to get. He seems to get linked to Milan every window anyway.
He does, which I do find interesting. Pies, a question for you. I lost my own question, and I was just trying to ask you. Oh yeah, what do you think happens with the left backs? Because we haven't seen anyone trying to buy Marc Cucurella. We haven't seen anything to do with Ben Chilwell. Like I know he's been injured all season, obviously, but he seems to be fit now. While England in the Euros, they have Kieran Trippier, who seems to be carrying a knock anyway. A right back playing a left back because Luke Shaw, who is the left back that he did call up, isn't actually fit. While you have Ben Chilwell, who is fit, just isn't involved. Now I understand why he's not involved because he's barely played, and when he has played, it hasn't been good. But what do you expect to happen with those two anymore? Because Cucurella just suits Maresca ball so drastically much better than Chilwell. But I just don't see anyone buying Chilwell because he's on fairly high wages. He's our vice captain. We're going to ask fairly significant money, I reckon, for him because in England, well, now not anymore England international, but still a senior player. So what do you see happening with this? And can you see a reality in which both end up staying and just Chilwell just never plays?
Potentially. I do think Cucurella is going to get sold after the Euros, though. I think his price is going to go up, and I think someone's going to
I actually agree with that. I think his stock has never been higher.
But the thing is with Chilwell is I don't know anywhere where Chilwell can play under Maresca ball. Like talking about Gallagher, I actually believe more in Gallagher and Maresca ball than I do with Chilwell. To be honest with you, I think Chilwell under pressure technically is just, I think he's horrendous. I don't rate him at all, honestly. I really
The only
don't.
position he could play in would be left wing in this system.
And if Maresca does that, then sack it, honestly.
So, but is it then Maresca's fault, or is it then the sport director's fault for keeping Chilwell and selling Cucurella? Do you know what I mean?
Literally, like directable, like yeah.
But
no,
it's to me. Like I agree with what you said, Pies, and Ollie does clearly as well. There's a good chance we sell him after Euros because his stock will never have been higher. But when you have a player that suits what your manager wants to do so well, is in such good form, and has actually, like, I don't know about you guys, but I think the way Cucurella has struggled in his first season, the way he's got booing and hate and abuse from our fans, the way he's managed to turn that around to getting his name chanted like every time he touched the ball in the last few games of the season, and everybody like almost losing their minds by how good Cucurella has been. If you choose to sell that player, like that's like we just can't attach to anyone anymore. Whether they play well, if they play well, they get sold because their value is high. If they play badly, they get sold because, well, they're not good enough now, even though they've barely been given a chance. It's just is it like for me? If we sell Cucurella now, as much as I think it's likely, but because I actually think they're idiots, selling Cucurella now will prove to me that nothing this football club does has any logic and sense behind it. Do you not see that? Because like, you will not find a left back that suits Enzo Maresca better than Marc Cucurella in the world, in my opinion. Like, name me one, please. Obviously, I'm happy to be proven wrong. But I just don't see anyone that suits better than Cucurella.
It just depends what you could sell Cucurella for, though, doesn't it? Like if somebody comes in and says, drops 70, 80 million on the table, of course you're going to take it, aren't you?
Are you?
Yeah, of course you are. I mean, I know there's some people in the fan base who wouldn't...
20 million profit on that then? Like, is that worth it?
I don't know. It seems more worth it because at some point we thought we weren't going to get any profit for him at all.
I mean, we did think that, but we did also sign him at one point thinking he's the second best left back in the Premier League, and Pep Guardiola and Man City wanted him, and now
I think the reality is somewhere in the middle. I think he's a good player, and he makes a difference to some teams at some times, but he seems to either only have a disaster class or a master class. And I don't think you can rely on a player like that in a system like Maresca's, where actually that player needs to have a good game every game.
While I hear that, I don't think he's had a disaster class in a long time. So maybe he's just had a struggling patch of form at the beginning of moving clubs.
But
And
you
now
could also
he's not
argue
actually
that
bad.
you could argue his last 5 games for the club and getting into the Euros, his Euros form, you could argue that's a purple patch. So it could go both ways, is what I'm saying.
But I think he's, ever since coming back in April, March, every game since then he's been fantastic, I think. And that was certainly more than 5 games. But it was also a position, obviously, that he hadn't played until that point. So, but Pice, do you agree with me? If to think like you're not going to find a left back in that position that suits better. Now, sure, if you're fully adamant that the right back inverts, then you could, I guess, find a better left centre back because Cucurella is quite short to be one of the 3. I get that's fair, but in general, play style wise, he suits Maresca so well. If you then sell him, doesn't that put the whole idea of what we're trying to build into question for you? Because it does for me. Not that I don't already question it anyway.
I mean, if you sell Cucurella and you kind of get the same thing, then yeah, because why not just keep Cucurella? So that's one thing you have to sell Chilwell. Like, now is the time to sell Chilwell. It's going to be very hard to, but you've got to try and place, you've got to try and put, because I just don't think he suits the squad, to be honest with you. And I think he's regressed so much. Obviously not his fault because of injuries, but yeah, I just do think he's regressed so much, to be honest with you.
Yeah, exactly. I think we should be keeping him. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
Like, literally, Cucurella played left centre-back under Graham Potter against Dortmund, I think, that game. Do you remember the 3 at the back when we did? So it was on the ball.
Exactly.
And he literally,
to this day, still maybe one of his best games that he played for the club.
Literally,
I argue is his best performance for the club, I would say.
Perfect. Genuinely. He's fucking perfect for Maresca's system. And this is what I say. If we sell Cucurella, you're just going against what fucking manager you've appointed. You have no brains, honestly.
What I would say is, and the news that's coming out about Carney also kind of mirrors this. I do wonder if the ownership are trying to kind of undo that first transfer window still, and they're just trying to cut their losses from when they can on that, because I don't know, Carney is a weird one for that because we bought him quite early on, but without the wage structure at the time. Cucurella is the same, and we bought him for a lot of money. So I wonder if they're just trying to, in the same way that they managed to get rid of load of players to Saudi from that transfer window. I wonder if they're trying to do the same again and just pick off the last few that aren't currently part of the wage structure.
May well potentially be the case, but surely if they're supposedly their main aim is to win, if their main aim is to be successful, and then you have a player that
Barley's main aim is not to win.
I mean, yeah, maybe not. But Bowley just
for him, it's to keep operating expenditure low and compete. That's it. Bowley keeps saying he wants to win, but I genuinely believe that Bowley actually said.
But don't you think that they're spending too much unnecessary money for that plan to just purely make revenue? I just think they're spending too much money for that to be realistic, and they're also not looking to build a stadium badly enough for that to be the plan. I think.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think it was different when they bought the club to how it was after it, because after COVID and stuff and interest rates went up, and then we're going to get into talking about venture capitalism and banking and stuff. So let's not go down this road. But yeah. I don't know. I think ever since Barley's been a part of the upstairs management and more of a decision making role, it seems that a lot of the things that we've done as a club have been to limit the operating expenditure of the club, and that means wages. And to me, that tells me that he doesn't want to win.
I guess. I mean, Pice, where do you stand on that question from Ollie? That are they trying to just make up for the first window? Because we're also seemingly not trying to sell Sterling either. So that also.
I think we can't sell Sterling for what it's worth. I think it's just impossible because nobody wants it.
There could still be briefs that we're trying to, and just we don't manage it. But there's nothing. Do you know what I mean?
I guess.
So, for Pice, where do you stand? Do you think part of trying to sell Cucurella is making up for that screwed up first transfer window at all? Even if he's now good enough that it doesn't look screwed, but he's on a different kind of wage structure?
No, I mean, I think it'd be stupid to do that. I think you should always build with the players that suit your squad. And I think Cucurella is probably one of, if I had to pick 5 players that suit Maresca the most on the basis of what we know, Cucurella, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I hear it, to be honest. I hear it. Like I say, I hope he stays. If he doesn't, I'll be sad, but I'm used to that as a Chelsea fan now, aren't I? So there we go. Just this last bit before we get into talking about the Euros quickly. Matt Law also said Chelsea are looking to build a squad that can potentially cope with a 75-80 game season, including next summer's Club World Cup. Does this kind of maybe make sense why we're stacking things so much? I mean, Pice, you told me yesterday, maybe part of it is also just in case we have another season's fully, crippled by injuries. If you have a big squad, you're going to be okay. But it's just like we had a bloated squad. All the media briefs were how much of a problem that was and how we needed to get rid of the squad or, thin the squad out so we can actually do something again. And now we had so many injuries that now we need to bloat the squad again. Just like, first of all, I get it because obviously Club World Cup and, now we have Conference League, so that's an extra competition. But it just sounds stupid, doesn't it? Like it just really does sound stupid. But at the same time, if we have a lot of games, like 75, 80 games, if you have that many games, you need a lot of players. But the problem is they need to be of a similar ability because the manager is never going to want to play someone much worse. That's kind of what you saw with Poch and Potter. Like we saw in particular with Poch, like as soon as, because he didn't want to play a centre-back and right-back, as soon as Malo Gusto came back from injuries, he played straight away. The same happened in a few other positions as well. And you're going to have that with every manager. Unless you have multiple players of very similar ability, they're not going to want to rotate them as much as you need to really keep them fresh and fit. So, I don't know. I mean, much to add to this, Ollie, Pice, if you don't.
I just wanted to say that, like, with the more games that get played, it's closer to baseball, like in terms of like the season and the terms of the structure of the squad that they would want to play. In terms, like, because I don't know how many people watch baseball here. I catch it from time to time. It's like a player will play they'll have games every 3 days or however, like really often because there's like 300 games in a season. But the same team won't play every game. Like every single game, there will be rotations about who plays where most of the time. And I'm wondering if, as we're playing more and more games now, if that's the kind of thing they're looking at doing, like where they're just saying like, there are so many games now that you have to have a big squad, and we may as well have quality in depth. I don't know.
But we had depth. They sold all of it.
I would argue we didn't have. Yeah, but we didn't have quality in depth, and everyone was unhappy and all of that stuff. Like, there's a lot of other reasons for that, and I think increasing the size of the squad, increasing the squad a little bit more the size of the squad a bit more gradually as well, probably will make a difference instead of going from like whatever we had to like ballooning up to 40 players. There's a middle ground, is what I'm getting at.
There you go. Pice, what do you think of the potential idea of kind of bloating the squad to deal with a crazy amount of games? Make sense? Stupid? What do you reckon?
It's one of those ones where when you see it sort of thing. So like during the season, it's like, well, if you get a load of injuries, well, you don't. I mean, it's fucking stupid because it makes it really hard to manage the squad. So, I don't know. By the way, with 75 to 80 game season, it's after the end of next season, right? So isn't that in the lead up to the new season? Like,
I don't know what it counts for, if it counts for the next season or the beginning of the one afterwards.
Like, so
I saw last week or 2 weeks ago, I saw in a year's time it will start. So that means it's going to be in June. So therefore, it's going to be more towards the end of next season rather than the beginning of the season after.
So you're in like a year's time. Nice. Yeah. That doesn't really make sense to me. Considering, do we have the summer window before the Club World Cup?
No.
Okay. Well, I still think it's pretty stupid, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it depends, innit? We'll see. If we have a lot of injuries again, it's smart. If we don't, it's stupid.
it's risky planning, is what I would say. And Maresca's man management has been untested at a big club. So again, that's another factor. If we sign, does he know how to deal with all these different characters? Who knows? I mean, he's worked under Pep Guardiola, who's the best man manager in the world. But it's risky. It's risky. Everything we do is risky. Do you
know what, Pies? I really do agree with that. Everything we do seems to be a gamble at the moment, and
there's always like a caveat to it. It's like, oh, what if this happens? It's never like,
nothing's a sure thing. And maybe it's just as we get a bit older, we realise that it's more like that than we thought, and it's always been more like that than we thought. But it seems that we're taking a lot of gambles in a lot of things, and I don't think it would take much to kind of just tip the whole equilibrium off, if you know what I mean. And like 3, 4, 5 of those things just don't go your way on a 50-50, and suddenly things are looking much worse.
Yeah.
It's like betting, really, isn't it? Like if you bet on England beating Serbia individually, that's a reasonable bet. If you're better than beating Serbia, Denmark, and Slovenia, well, you found out that would have been risky, and that's why it's so much of a problem with Chelsea. If you don't make one risky decision, but 15, or even that's an under exaggeration. So like 130 risky decisions in the space of 2 years. Well, then the likelihood of all of them working out, I guess, diminishes a little bit. I wanted to go straight into the Euros chat now, but I actually saw I had one slide open, which I still wanted to touch on because I have no idea about the guy. Chelsea have full agreement with Aaron Anselmino, who I do like his name, Anselmino, rolls off the tongue. On personal terms, he wants Chelsea despite links with other Premier League clubs, including Man United, by the way. Work in progress to agree on terms with Boca Juniors and get the deal done soon. Pice, knowledge, thoughts? What have you got for me?
Not much, to be honest with you. Other than speaking to South American accounts, they think he's a very good centre back with a lot of potential. So yeah, I mean, just have to go by that. Really, very good on
the centre back, isn't he?
Yeah, centre back. Yeah.
There you go. I mean, yeah, Mickey. Well, first, Anurag said Esteban will play against us in the Club World Cup. I said no, he will play for us. Then Mickey said Fab said he will join after. Well, he turns 18 in April, so I would assume he joined us before. But
no, Esteban's playing against us in the Club World Cup. That was part of the deal.
I was clearly wrong then because but maybe I guess that's part of it being part of this season or this upcoming season now because it's in June. So then he wouldn't maybe be allowed to move, in that period, if that makes sense.
It probably, yeah, if it's in June, it's probably to do with the PSR thing.
No,
in terms of like the timings.
I'm not even saying PSR. I'm saying like club transfer. Like, why would he be allowed?
No, but that's what I mean. Like because
they alone in the middle of the season either.
No, but that's what I mean. In terms of like June would be considered the previous season on the financial.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, fair enough. Well, yeah, let's see what happens with this Anselmino guy. But I suppose we'll have to wait and see. All right, let's get into the Euros. Austria, best team at the Euros, obviously. England, worst team at the Euros. What we have here are the finalized groups. We'll just do the brackets, obviously. Just quickly, boys, any big positive or negative surprises for you? Whether that's England, whether that's Germany, Spain, I guess Austria, Romania, obviously top of that group. No one's saw that coming. Georgia qualifying. That's pretty unbelievable. What have you made of the Euros? Have you been able to enjoy them? Have they been able to take your mind of the depression that is Chelsea?
Yeah, I really have. It's been one of the best tournaments in a while. Actually, I think obviously I think the Qatar World Cup in 2022 was really good. But I think this is the best Euros in quite a while. All the games seem to be quite entertaining. There aren't many boring games. Match day 3 was a little bit more dull, but you kind of always expect that at the end of a group stage thing where people are kind of playing a bit more conservative and whatnot. But a lot of the games have been really, really fun to watch, really interesting, and some really big surprises and nice things to see in there. Like you said, Romania topping their group is unbelievable. Georgia qualifying is unbelievable, and Austria as well. Never ever saw that coming. I thought they were going to get battered by France, and they should have beat them. So, there's a lot of good teams here that probably that deserve to go quite a long way in the tournament. And it would just be interesting to see if it will kind of be the more traditional sides that do eventually win the day, or if, some of the smaller, non-traditional teams like Austria, like Romania, like Georgia and Denmark and Slovenia and whatnot, if they'll be able to actually kick on and get further than people might think.
100%. Yeah. I mean, obviously, us in Austria, we did know that we are better than a lot of people, across Europe realized we are. But no one here expected us to finish ahead of France. I thought we'd come second in the group. I did think we'd somehow be better than Netherlands, but not ahead of France. But obviously, against them, we got a bit unlucky anyway. That we then still finish ahead of them. I can't believe how bad France have been in the games after that, to be honest. But hey, that's a different one. Pice, have you enjoyed the Euros, or have England been quite poor? Has that killed the enjoyment for you a little bit?
A little bit, yeah. But no, I've really enjoyed it, to be fair. Like I've probably missed like 2 games out of everything, which is, someone says pretty sad, but I like watching all the football.
No. It just makes you a football fan, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched pretty much all the games. funny enough, like some of the lower tier countries, you'd say have actually been the more exciting games. Like Switzerland have been a really good watch. Georgia have been a really good watch. Turkey have been decent. I'll tell you what, Romania even were a decent watch. Like no one was expecting that.
To be fair,
Crazy
were they only a
bad,
decent watch against Ukraine in that first game, or were they a decent watch after that as well? I
Right.
don't know. I think I only caught that first Romania game against Ukraine. I didn't see.
I think I caught their first
They
game and their
beat-
last game, and they were really good. I thought they were excellent.
Yeah, I think I've watched a couple of games of them. I thought they were decent. Yeah, you guys, Austria have been really impressive as well. I mean, the Netherlands game was a great watch. Like, you was very attacking. Like, I think Rangnick's a really good coach. Like the way you're pressing and stuff is mad. Like, it's mad.
There's
like,
not a lot of international teams that press like we do, and the kind of, for the first time in our history, the fact that Red Bull Salzburg have ruined football in Austria within the country is now becoming a positive for us, because the whole Red Bull type of playing, the whole high press, high intensity, that has kind of sickened through everywhere else in Austria as well. So all the academies kind of do that now, and all the players that have come through by now, whether that's out of Germany or obviously through Austria itself, they all kind of do that. So it's not like Rangnick needs to teach them anything particularly new. They all roughly know how this works anyway, because they've all grown up with this style of football. And I also think Rangnick as a club manager, I think we all saw that at United, it's not really his thing. I think he's a bit too full on, a bit too much of a, sometimes a bit of a weird guy to be like with people on every day. But I think as an international manager, there's very few people that, I don't think there's anyone that could have done a better job with us over the last 2 years than Ralf Rangnick did, if I'm being honest. But obviously for us, it's been fantastic. I was obviously at the Austria-Netherlands game. What a game it was to be at. Great day. Also surprising, I say surprising, a bit unfortunate, I guess, for Croatia and even Hungary. Even in third place teams, you wouldn't have thought the one out of the Spain, Italy, Croatia group, you wouldn't have thought that one of those teams wouldn't make it as the best third place finishers. But let me press that continue button, and then we see the brackets.
Hey, Lawrence, can I just say, we did like a bracket predictor, didn't we, once for the tournament side with Conor, and she would have their bad tournament this year. I said I think it's going to be one tournament too many for them. Just putting it out there.
To be fair,
give myself a pat on the back.
What was it? Was it Conor? Because I actually felt that about Croatia as well. But yeah, it's I don't know. It just felt a bit. They were all a bit too old by now, and they didn't really have a striker. Because it's a weird one. I feel like for Croatia, the game could have got the tournament could have gone very differently. Because that game against Spain, yes, Spain was much better, and Spain won 3-0 in the end. But Croatia had big chances at 1-0 Spain to equalize. And if they equalize, then maybe they get a draw out of that game, and that changes everything. So even in group stage football, small details obviously matter. Unfortunately, here on the official UEFA brackets, it's a bit more difficult to judge the sides, but you can see it still here. You have a lot of the favorites: Spain, Germany, Portugal, who have been kind of underwhelming, I felt, and France. And if people still want to view them as such, Belgium, all on one side of the draw, and then the other side is Romania, Netherlands, I guess Austria, England, and Switzerland, Italy. So there's certainly one easier side of the draw than the other one. But do you believe in that? Because I saw a lot of people say it's not even necessarily an advantage to have an easier side of the draw, because you're almost like in a position where you have to win, and that almost creates more pressure than if you're playing someone who, like, it's kind of an even matchup, but it's like, let's see how the game goes. Because arguably for Austria, I was more confident that we'd get something against the Netherlands than I was against Poland. And even the players said it in hindsight, there was a lot of pressure on this game against Poland here. Obviously, after we lost the first game against France, and you could even see that once Poland equalized, we were a bit like shell-shocked almost. So did you see it from that perspective, or do you think you'd still always much rather be in the easier side of the draw? I'll go with you first, Pikes, especially like obviously England experienced in the 2018 World Cup, didn't you? Where you had like Sweden, Colombia, Croatia on your side of the World Cup draw, and could have made the final, should have made the final with a much easier side. But at the same time, you hadn't gotten past the quarterfinal in God knows how many years before that. And if you didn't have that easier side of the draw, you may not have even achieved that. So it was still, I think that 2018 World Cup was still what allowed England to kick on and become a more serious contender. Even if Southgate ruins it for you, I still think if that 2018 World Cup goes differently, you wouldn't be what you are now. Even if you'd have the same players, there'd still be much more doubt about England than there is, at least globally speaking. In England, I think there is plenty of doubt anyway. But yeah, where do you stand? Did you always prefer an easier side of the draw, or do you actually like the tougher 50-50 games for your own country, Pies?
No, I prefer the easy side of the draw, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, this time, like Slovakia on Sunday, I mean, I'd be surprised if we even beat them, to be honest with you. Like, we've been fucking awful. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
like, Southgate's shite. Like, we're all screaming for Mainu and Palmer to come on, Gordon to play. Like, it just doesn't change anything. It'll be the same team Sunday. Maybe you'll bring Mainu in, but, yeah, we're just poor. We're getting nothing out of our attacking players. So much talent in our squad, and we're just playing awful. Like, you don't want to watch it. Honestly, it's garbage. It's absolute garbage. So yeah, I mean, the other side of the draw has definitely piqued my interest. I think, look, even if we beat Slovakia, look, we're going to play probably Italy, but I mean, Switzerland would definitely beat us right now. If we played them tomorrow, I think Switzerland beat us. So, it's one of those where I think we're going to have a major flop of the tournament. But you look at it on paper, you think England should probably get to the final, really.
You should.
Yeah.
I mean, purely on the talent in your team, you should get to the final, regardless of what the draw is, really. But yeah, no, I don't disagree. It's a tricky one, England, because part of me does feel a little bit sorry for Southgate in the sense that you not having a left back kills a lot of how Southgate played over the last 3 tournaments and a lot of what made you good. Like, even look at the final against Italy. Who scored? Luke Shaw. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to get Kieran Trippier from left back scoring, especially while dealing with a calf injury. It's not going to happen. So I genuinely think, I know a lot of, Ian Wright has gotten a lot of stick from Arsenal fans for this, but I genuinely think England's best bet right now would be go to a back 3, play Saka left wing back, and go into it like that. Because while you're playing Trippier in this left back situation, especially while you're playing Foden as a left winger, which he just isn't. Like, if you're not having a proper left back, you need at least a proper left winger. But because you don't have either, just your left side just isn't the thing. And then, like, it's so much easier for any opponent, no matter how good or bad they are, to stop you, I feel like. So, I don't know. Like, even Lewis Hall. Like, if you have Lewis Hall in the squad, it'd be such an improvement on having Kieran Trippier on the wrong side. Like, it's just the call-up of the squad just made so little sense in total. But, yeah, I mean, where do you stand on England, Ollie? Because do you give him that excuse with Trippier on the left not being fit? Obviously, Luke Shaw not being fit. Ben Chilwell, the other left back in the last few years, not being fit or good. Or do you not give him that?
I think Southgate is someone who is, and I think the debate about England is about Southgate for me personally. I think he's someone who does a really good job at bringing the squad together. Bringing a sort of togetherness about the players and getting them to believe in each other on the pitch, and I think that's important. I don't think he's tactically good enough, and I think realistically, I actually think he should have gone after Qatar. Because I think he had reached his ceiling after the last Euros with this squad. I think someone else should have been able to come in and do something different. Because I just don't. Now we're seeing in international football, you've got German teams like Germany, for example. They've got like a Julian Nagelsmann. Of course, Austria got Ralf Rangnick. He's a great manager. There's a lot of really good managers now in international football, and I think just being a good guy who brings the squad together, I'm not sure is good enough now. I think he's hit his ceiling basically, and I think he should be moved on.
Yeah, I agree. Like, obviously, the way the 2018 World Cup went, you made the first semi-final, and God knows how long, you couldn't really sack him then. Same with the Euros, you made the final, you only lost on penalties, you couldn't sack him then. But like you just said, Ollie, even if it wasn't his fault, then it was Harry Kane's fault, because if he scores that pen, you win that game against France. I'm pretty confident of it. And then you make the semis again. But because it just happened that you lost, I think that was the moment that you sacked him, because you literally couldn't the other times. And now in my opinion, you're kind of killing a huge chance of winning a tournament with France kind of looking pretty poor right now, if you'd have a better manager in charge, if I'm being perfectly honest. But let's get through the predictor. Shouldn't take too long. So let's get through it. Spain versus Georgia. Pice, I know you back Georgia a lot, but do you back them to beat Spain, who've arguably been the best team at the Euro so far?
Yeah, I'm going to back Georgia. Georgia are my boys at the moment. I'm liking watching them.
But you back them because you like them, or because you actually think they'll win, though?
I think they've got a good chance, If they defend well enough, I think they can hit Spain on the counter, for sure. Yeah. I think it could go extra time. But Spain should win. But maybe they catch Spain on an off day where they're not clinical. Maybe. Yeah, I'm gonna back Georgia. I'm gonna back Georgia. Why not?
Unfortunately, Pies, I expect Ollie to pick Spain, and I might have to pick Spain. So then you're unfortunately going to be outvoted. But Ollie, do you pick Spain, or do you also going to want to go crazy and pick Georgia? We can do crazy predictions here. Who cares? Here for fun. So
do you know what? I saw so much togetherness and I saw so much belief in that Georgia team. They're all running for each other. They're all doing everything that they should be doing. Portugal, who they did beat in an out game. I know Portugal didn't really have anything to play for.
Yeah.
I think Portugal are a good enough team to have wiped the floor with them on their worst day. And Georgia showed them why they shouldn't be underestimated. And I think it will be closer against Spain than people think. I don't know. I want to back Georgia because why not?
Fair enough. I mean, now you've outvoted me. I would it's weird. I would almost love to jump on the Georgia hype train. And if they played anyone other than Spain and maybe Germany and ourselves, Austria, I would probably have happily gone for Georgia. But I just think Spain have looked so good. And for me, the best team at the Euro so far. I just can't really see it happening. But hey, I've been outvoted. I don't mind. Germany, Denmark then. Ollie, who are you picking there?
That's a straight up Germany win.
Hero?
I think the thing is I think the home Euros element of it is going to carry Germany most of, if not all the way. So I personally, spoiler for the prediction, I'm probably going to be back in Germany in almost every game they play. They seem really good. Obviously, they've got Nagelsmann and they've got so much talent in their squad. They always seem to be able to find a solution. Like even in the game where they huffed and puffed against Switzerland, they brought on Füllkrug and they found a solution in the end.
Yeah. Füllkrug, by the way, underrated striker in my opinion.
Yeah, he's decent. But yeah, so I'll go with Germany because I think they'll just have too much for Denmark.
Yeah, and also Denmark in obviously the group with you guys. They've also been extremely underwhelming. Haven't they got 3 draws and that's how they got through somehow?
They've not been fantastic, but they've. The game against us is the best game they've played by a mile. But they should have beaten us.
After Eriksen scored, no, that wasn't against you that Eriksen scored. Well, after their goal, they didn't do much anymore, did they?
No, but they didn't need to.
No, but still, obviously, Denmark don't forget, Denmark made the last Euro semi-final. So, they're not like, I don't know, Georgia or even Austria. We're like, okay, happy to make it out the group. Like, Denmark's expectations are a bit higher than that. And I feel like for that, they've been kind of disappointing. But Pice, would you also back Germany over Denmark, yeah?
Yeah, but what I would say is that I don't necessarily feel like, obviously, group form has, somewhat of a bearing in it. But when you get to a one-off knockout game, anything can happen. So I do think Denmark have got a lot of quality in their squad, but I will go with Germany. I don't think it'll be a battering, though. I don't think it'll be a straightforward game. I think Denmark will fight.
Yeah. I don't think Denmark will ever be
involved. Both teams will score
against them.
Yeah,
what do you reckon the score is?
I reckon 2-1 Germany.
Yeah, I would say something like 2-1 or 3-1 Germany. I think both teams score for certain.
See, I say 2-0 Germany. I don't think Denmark scored. The way they've looked in the groups, they just, like I said, obviously knockouts can change it, but I just don't think they've looked a threat almost at all. Whenever I've watched Denmark play, and I didn't necessarily watch every minute of every game of theirs, but still, whenever I've seen them, they just, I don't know. Like in the first game, who did they play in the first game? Was it Slovenia? When obviously Eriksen scored, and everyone was like, well, last Euros he died, now he scored, blah, blah, blah. Great story. But like, if Eriksen didn't do something like that, they would look like they would never score if they played for 3 hours that day or 10 hours. So, yeah, I don't really back it from that perspective. But hey, move on to the other round of 16 games. Portugal, Slovenia. You guys played Slovenia. And Seško did look quite good. And Portugal did look quite poor against Georgia. But like I said, they didn't have anything to play for. Surely Portugal win this. Even if I personally think Portugal have been not as good as most people try to tell me they would be. I don't know how you see that. Pite, I'll go with you first. Do you back Portugal? And also, what have you made of them so far?
Yeah, they've been good. I think they have a lot of quality in their squad. I don't really rate Roberto Martinez, to be honest with you. I think he makes some weird subs sometimes. But
you didn't even know where he was from.
I know, but to be honest, I just don't. I don't rate him really as a manager. Like I think Hazard carried him for Belgium as well. So and I'll go with Portugal for this. Slovenia aren't good enough to beat them.
No, I agree. Ollie, do you agree?
Listen, love Slovenia, love the Slovenian people, but yeah, Portugal will have too much for them.
Yeah.
I'd
So
just
move on to the next one then. France, Belgium. In terms of names, probably the biggest round of 16. But also, how did they both come second and end up playing each other? Like the whole thing. Just a quick second, right? This whole third place teams going through just ruins everything because
It's harder to go out.
now, first of all, it's harder to go out. But what happens in the round of 16 is just so unfair. It's just out of this world. Like Austria topped our group, and we play someone as second. Romania topped their group, and they play someone as third. Now, in their case, it happened to end up being Netherlands. But how is it decided that which group, even if
it's
you
because it's a 24-team tournament,
like it's just so unfair, isn't it? Like
it's because it's a 24-team tournament. It's why it's why people are advocating for a 32-game Euros. Like, sorry, 32-team Euros.
Shall we increase it again? Because obviously, maybe people aren't aware. So, 2016 was the first Euros. They increased it from 16 teams to 24 teams. So, what we used to have in the Euros was 4 teams of 4 groups, and then all the top 2 went through, and you would not have a round of 16. You would go straight into quarterfinals, which obviously is like the Copa America is now still, and essentially means you have a week less of games because obviously you have 2 less groups and you have 1 less round of knockouts. So the tournament is only 3 weeks rather than a month like the World Cup and the Euros are now. Could you increase it to 32? The only problem with it is obviously Europe has 45, 47 countries like that. So you're nearly bringing everyone if you're taking 32. But then if you look at a few countries that aren't there, like Norway or Sweden or Finland or Ireland, Northern Ireland, these kind of teams, like, yeah, they're clearly not that good. Otherwise, they would be here. But are they that much worse than like Slovenia, Georgia, Slovakia? Like, really, I don't think there's much of a fall off in that kind of that rough level between the 20th team and the 32nd team. I don't. They're very similar, I think. So I think for fairness, I think you might as well just put it up to 32. How do you see it, Ollie?
Yeah, I think I would. I like more teams means more football. More football just means more entertainment and more of a chance for one of those little nations to go on and just do something absolutely ridiculous and incredible. Like realistically, other likes of Northern Ireland and Wales and Azerbaijan and all these other teams that haven't qualified, or Greece or what have you. Are they like you say? Are they much better than the likes of Romania or Georgia? I mean, I guess ostensibly by results and by the fact that they qualified and they didn't a little bit, but I don't know. I like giving the opportunity for the little teams to do a bit better.
Exactly, and obviously speaking as I know people that aren't really aware, think, oh, what you're talking about, you're clearly good now. But 2016 was the first Euros we actually qualified for on merit. We'd never been to a Euros before then, except the 2008 Euros that we hosted ourselves. And then obviously as host nation, we're automatically qualified. So 2016 was the first time we actually qualified. So we never qualified for any of the 16 team Euros. And I've seen a lot of English people say, no, they'd rather put it back down to 16 than put it up to 32. I'm like, that's easy for you to say as an English person because you're English. Even if it goes down to 16, the likelihood of you being there is almost guaranteed still. For countries like Austria, this changes drastically. And now what you just said, Ollie, that's exactly it. Like countries like Ireland, Northern Ireland, whatever, Wales. I mean, Wales, to be fair, they've done well in the past. For them, it's not about, okay, we make it out the group. Sure, that's their aim. But the big thing for them is to even make it there. Like even me now, I went to the 2016 Euros in France. I went to these Euros now here. You can't do that if your country doesn't go. Sure, you can go, but it's not the same if you're supporting someone else than if you support your own country. It's just not the same. So, and I'm like, why wouldn't we allow that great experience that you expect that you just lived through? Why wouldn't we allow that to 8 more teams? Why not? Like, let the people from all countries enjoy themselves. I don't see anything wrong with it. So that would be my perspective from it anyway. Yeah, at the end of the title, Varna, it says Chelsea hijack Leicester's Dewsbury-Hall, smart signing or a mess. And then the last bit is Euro 24 knockouts. So, maybe it doesn't show up for you, but that is in the title as well. Pice, just quickly, do you think we should increase the teams at the Euros to 32? Or do you think we should lower them to 16? Or do you think actually the kind of unpredictableness of this third place team stuff going through is actually enjoyable and you just keep it at 24?
I like it like this personally.
Yeah, I can also see the 24. I just think it's unfair in the round of 16. After that is fine, and in the group I think it's perfectly good. I just think the round of 16, why do some teams play Like some first teams play a third team, some first teams play a second team, some second team play a third team, and some second teams play another second team. It just seems a bit all over the place. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it is strange.
But yeah, there you go. Let's move on to the next. I don't want to hold you guys up for too long. France, Belgium. I'm going to pack France because, well, Belgium don't look great, even though they got a bit unfortunate, obviously, with a fair few ruled out goals through VAR. And France haven't looked great, but you'd still surely expect them to beat Belgium. Now, wouldn't you, Price?
Yes, yeah, I'll go with France on this one. I think Belgium have looked really poor.
Yeah, same. It literally looks like they're Doku trying to dribble and Lukaku waiting for the ball, and that's all they are. And De Bruyne, I guess. But yeah, it seems like a weird team to me. But also, they have a terrible manager. Like, how can they manage to go from Roberto Martinez, who's not a great manager, to bloody Tedesco, who's like, what? He was manager of Leipzig for like, what, half a year? And that's all he's done. And now he's all of a sudden Belgium manager. How's that even happen? I don't understand. But anyway, Ollie, would you back France as well? Or do you somehow think Belgium get this done?
No, I think it's France. Belgium have looked really poor, not good enough. I know they're a little nation, but with the talent they've had, they probably at this point should have won something at this stage. Like they've got a lot of really strong players, and it turns out that like just De Bruyne and Lukaku and Doku and whatnot, it just aren't cutting it. I'm not sure whether they don't have the belief, or I've heard a few times that like Belgium, like a lot of them together, don't really get on very well. So it might be that something to do with that as well. It could be sort of like an England sort of early 2000s England kind of situation where
rivalries and stuff.
Yeah, rivalries between players kind of gets in the way of them being able to do something greater. And when you don't have someone like Hazard there to sort of lighten the mood a little bit, it can get a little bit depressing like that. Yeah. So
all the Hazard brothers are gone. Even Thorgan. I don't even know where Thorgan is these days. But yeah, there you go. Yeah. I think it will also be France. France, Portugal, that'll be a spicy quarterfinal. Anyway, we move on to Romania, Netherlands. I could smell an upset here, boys. I might pick Romania. Also, I'll be honest, I'll pick this from a little bit of a self-sufficient or egotistical point of view. I don't just really want to play Netherlands again. And as you can see, if Austria win our round of 16 game and Netherlands, we just play them again. And the game would also again be in the same stadium in Berlin. It's just a bit dead, give us some variation. So that's why I'm going to Romania. Obviously, if you boys both pick Netherlands, we will pick Netherlands. But Ollie, do you see an upset at all in this one? Would you even call it an upset? Obviously, Romania topped their group. Netherlands came third.
Yeah, it would be an upset, but I think Romania will have too much for them, actually. I think they're one of the teams that they don't have an out-and-out superstar in their team, but they all play for each other and they all are, like working hard for each other and executing a game plan to perfection. And that's what football's all about. And I think ultimately Netherlands have huffed and puffed, came third in their group. Really, you should think this probably should have been the other way around. Netherlands should have eased their group and Romania should be one of those third-place teams. I think on form, you've got to give it to Romania.
Yeah. I mean, Pice, now you're kind of outvoted, even if you did go for Netherlands, but could you maybe see Romania winning anyway?
I could, but I'm going to go for Netherlands.
Okay. Well, because me and Ollie go for Romania, it will be Romania, but but fair. It's certainly a tight one. Like when I'm going to do the predictor at some point, it's going to be a tough one to call, right? And it's not like Netherlands were absolutely awful against Austria. And if I say, they were awful, that means clearly Austria weren't that good because we only beat them 3-2, didn't we? So it's not like we smashed them. But I don't know. The fact that they came third, there seems a lot of like discontent with the manager, Ronald Koeman. Yeah, the fact that he dropped Xavi Simons all of a sudden for that game and then he subbed one of his players off after 33 minutes, making them cry. It's just bad management all over the place. So that's why I think Romania might just somehow make it. Going to Austria-Turkey, I personally think, entertainment-wise, this will be the best round of 16 game. Because obviously the way Austria play and the way Turkey play, I think that will be a fun game. I back us. I hope you boys will back us as well, but I think Austria will go through. Pice, do you think Austria will go through, or do you want to do me dirty and think pick Turkey? You both could just fuck me over here, both pick Turkey, and then I'm looking like a mug.
I've not really. Turkey's one of the teams I can't remember watching that much. Actually, maybe
must have watched them against Georgia. When Arda Güler and that other guy scored those absolute goals.
Yeah, I watched that game. Yeah, Yeah, it could be a close one. This, I think you're better defensively though than them. So I say you win on penalties. I reckon.
Oh, I'll take it.
Let's go with that.
I'm not even sure if Austria have ever been in penalties in a tournament. So that experience on its own, I'd say. As long as you
Well,
win. If we lose, I'd be miserable.
yeah, I think, it's weird though, because I think they've got more like attacking threats, but for some reason I could just see you winning. Because you've been so good.
Like they certainly
honestly,
have individually, like so Arda Güler, Hakan Çalhanoğlu, they've certainly maybe got the more standout talent in that sense. But honestly, I think we could absolutely destroy them because the way they've played in the group, if we press them and they play the same way they played in the group, and also if we played a friendly against them in March, we destroyed them 6-1. So let's see how it goes. But obviously, we can't expect the 6-1 to happen again at all. But yeah, last time we played them was 6-1, so that was quite clear. But yeah, for us, I'm a bit nervous about it. Like I would almost feel better if we played England because I'd still back us to actually beat England. Like you said earlier, Pice, if you play Switzerland, you back Switzerland. I would back ourselves if we played England. But even if we did lose, no one would be that upset we'd lose to England. Bellingham, one of the best teams. It wouldn't be that bad. But if we now, after the great group stages that we had, if we now lost to Turkey, that would be an extreme anticlimax. So it's almost like worse for us to play this kind of team that's everyone's almost expecting us to win now, or a lot of people are at least. But yeah, Ollie, would you pick Austria as well, or would you go Turkey?
I would. I back you guys. I think you will beat Turkey, although I do think it'll be your toughest game so far.
Yeah, tougher than France.
I do.
Yeah, fair enough. It's certainly going to be a very different type of game because obviously against France, it was like we were certainly the more defensive of the two. It's going to be interesting because, like I say, it could be that Turkey end up trying to park the bus for some weird reason because they are so scared of that 6-1 friendly where they try to play us and then we just kill them. But so I have no idea how the game's going to go. Anyway, spicy. I'm smelling a semi-final. Anyway, England against Slovakia. Pice, you had your doubts. But surely in the end, you think still England will somehow scrape through. I don't think anyone expected to be pretty or impressive, but surely you'll go through.
England wins like 1-0, I reckon.
Yeah, exactly my prediction.
No hope, honestly, I have no hope. Honestly, it's fucking dreadful. I don't even want to watch the game.
Yeah, it's not going to be
genuinely like it's so depressing, Lawrence. Like it's so like we do not progress the fucking ball. Like it's insane. Like we pass it round side to side. Like it's just like Kane's hardly even getting any touches. Like Foden's non-existent. He doesn't play Palmer, even though Saka's been shit. Like Bellingham's ghosting most of the games unless he runs into the box and scores. Rice don't pass the ball forward. Like, it's just awful. It's dreadful.
There's massive holes all over the pitch. We're totally unbalanced. Like it's
so
just a mess.
Do you reckon he'll start Mainu in this game now?
Yeah, so maybe that'll help us a bit because he does progress the ball and he's a good player. So maybe it'll help us a bit. But look, he's got play Gordon, play Palmer. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Like, you're just going to keep sticking with the same shit. Like, it's ridiculous.
Did you see how that Gordon fell off a bike?
Yeah, I saw he's all grazed on his face.
Yeah. So I saw a clip of a press conference. First of all, that comment made me chuckle from Asian Aqua. They can't lose. Either they progress or Southgate sacked. But
Please.
So Anthony Gordon was supposedly riding on this e-bike that they have here in their camp in Germany. He was trying to record a video of his phone, send it to his family. And supposedly, I'm not sure if this is an e-bike thing or genuinely a difference in England and Germany, the front brake is on the other side of the bike. So then, because he was cycling one-handed, trying to film on his one hand, he was trying to brake with the rear brake like any normal person does. But then it turned out it was the front brake, and obviously
he's got arse over elbow. Yeah,
exactly.
Jesus, ouch.
So basically, already given Southgate a reason not to start him. So that's brilliant. But because he's now injured, you know what I mean. But yeah, I mean, Ollie, do you also think England will go through against Slovakia? The one thing I'll say is, and I haven't paid so much attention to Slovakia, but a few of the Euros podcasts that I've listened to, what these journalists and stuff have said about Slovakia is that they're not like Austria, but a bit like Austria in terms of that they go for it and that they press rather than just like a lot of other teams like Slovenia just park the bus. I'd wonder if they have the balls to do that against England. But if they do that, then I think England could actually for once have a good game and a fun game and score some goals. But I'm just not sure if Slovakia will have the balls to try that against England when everyone knows if you just park the bus, England don't know what to do.
Yeah, I actually think it's going to be Slovakia. I honestly do. I foresee like a Euros 2016 Iceland level, like
Could be.
like I could just see it happening all over again, and and it'll be no one. Well, it'll be the players' fault certainly, but Southgate will have to be sacked. So yeah, Naku's right. England can't lose in that scenario.
I mean,
It's
funny
true.
enough, like they beat Belgium 1-0, but then they drew to Romania and lost to Ukraine. Like, how does that work? That makes
It's
me
all
more
right. That tells you all you need to know. England would lose to all three, so they'll lose to Slovakia.
Yeah, I mean, they got
Could be.
Skriniar at the back, Skriniar, Dubravka. They got some
Yeah,
alright
they got a
players.
couple of decent players.
They do. They're not awful, definitely. By the way, Chelsea have just announced Ian Martin's transfer officially. Not that it's surprising or particularly news, but Chelsea have announced it. I'll go England like Pice has, Ollie, so we will put England through, but I do hear it. For me, this next game is the only one where I'm really not sure. Because the other ones I'm quite well, actually with this one I changed my mind. I initially went Netherlands and then changed my mind. So I guess maybe the second one. But this one, I personally, and maybe this is because my girlfriend is Swiss, but I personally think Switzerland will beat Italy. I just don't think Italy have been good at all. Like against Albania, they looked all right because obviously Albania scored after like 20 seconds, and then Italy actually turned that game around, looked quite good, and could have scored way more than they did. But in all the other games, Italy just weren't impressive at all. Spain absolutely toyed with them, and the fact that they only lost by an own goal was ridiculous. And then what was their last group game? Croatia. I mean, obviously they scored that winner at the very, very end, and it was a nice goal, but for the rest of the game, I was really not impressed. I'm going to pick Switzerland, but obviously every chance you boys pick Italy, and that's perfectly fine. Ollie, would you pick Italy, or do you give Switzerland a chance here?
It's a tough one. I think Switzerland certainly deserve a chance. I don't think anyone should be ruling them out completely. I think you write them off at your peril. But I think Italy are just one of those teams. They always seem to be able to find a way to win. And so I think they may well end up doing the same. It won't be pretty, but I think they will go through.
My bad. Yeah, you said Italy will go through, right?
Yeah, Italy.
There you go. Pice, will you also pick Italy?
This is tight. You know,
it's a difficult one for sure.
Oh, it's tight. Switzerland have been really good.
Except against Scotland, they were dreadful.
I think this might be the penalty shootout game. If there's going to be one penalty shootout game, I think this.
Switzerland love a penalty shootout. I'm not sure if you know, but last Euros they beat France in the round of 16 in penalties, and then they lost to Spain in the quarterfinals also on penalties. So like Switzerland,
Italy aren't afraid of penalties either. To be fair,
true.
I'm gonna go Italy.
It's a really close call, isn't it?
They might squeeze it. I mean, it'd be funny if it wasn't even close. Either way, but
yes, Switzerland batter them 4-0.
That would be quite
What do we know? What do we know? But overall, I think Italy might just nick it. Maybe a bit more tournament experience. But I don't rate them as much as it's weird because like Italy, I think they've had better squads. But yeah, we're looking at nearly a semi-final. For them again, like they always seem to. They're just a good tournament team. They've got solid players. I think Spalletti's a good coach as well. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard to not have them progress, I guess.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I mean, I know I went for Switzerland, but like I say, it's very, very close. All right, quarterfinals then. Georgia, Germany. Pice, you're still back in Georgia?
Man, like.
You want to
imagine Georgia went to the Euro semi-final, man. Imagine.
You know what's funny is I actually think they've got more of a chance of beating Germany than Spain. Now,
yeah, I agree with that. I agree.
Like it's really weird. So I'm gonna put them in the semi-finals. I think they're gonna beat Germany.
Ollie, I know you.
Red card for Germany. Rudiger gets sent off. It all goes tits up. Let's go.
Havertz misses 17 cities.
Bro, I'm on the Georgia hype train. Like,
hey, I back it. Hey, I won't back it, but I back you backing it. Ollie, you've said that the home advantage for Germany will be too much. So,
well, the thing is specifically for this game. So, like Georgia have really been able to carry along a lot of their performances on their support, and they've had a lot of, they've had a massive amount of support. You can hear it in the stadiums when they play. The stadium goes absolutely mental. When the stadium is in Germany and filled with German fans, I just can't. I think that multiplier for them will be taken away. I think it'll end up they'll be looking a bit more timid, and in the same way they could do a smash and grab against Spain. I just don't think Germany in their home stadium is going to lose to a team like Austria.
Like Austria, like Georgia.
Sorry, like Georgia, I mean.
They would lose to us, obviously.
Yeah, of course they would.
Of course they would. The next one, the biggest one, the spiciest one in terms of names, although England, Italy is obviously huge.
It's a double former final, if you see that. Portugal, France, and then you got Italy, England.
True. Good spot. Yeah, absolutely. The last two as well, not just any. Yeah, very good. Who'd you pick, Ollie? I'll go with you first. Who'd you pick between Portugal and France? This is a weird one because they've both underperformed so far. So it's kind of like really difficult to judge. Like, I don't know. I'd probably just pick France because Mbappe, but...
I think Mbappe is going to be back at this point, and I think it'd be silly to write off Mbappe. So I think it'd be Mbappe.
Yeah, I do probably agree. Price, do you also reckon Mbappe? By the way, just quickly, how weird was it that Portugal started Ronaldo even in the third game when they were guaranteed to finish first in that group? Like, the dude's, 40? Why did he not get a rest? Like, it just makes no sense. Like,
because he doesn't want it. He's probably fitter than everyone else in the team anyway.
Yeah, but he runs half as much as all the others. Isn't it weird how Cristiano Ronaldo won, like, back in 2008, we all said the best player in the world, right? And now he's basically turned into like a worse Giroud. Like, he's just stood up front, waiting for the crosses, trying to win the headers. And his link-up play is nowhere near as good as Giroud.
You say that if he's going to score a hat-trick now against France.
He probably will, but a hat-trick of headers. And he's still, like, even in the pre-tournament friendly, he scored an absolute worldy goal off his weak foot. And he still has that in it. But, like, the movement and the pace just isn't there. And I still feel like, as I did in the World Cup, I still feel that Ronaldo actually hampers Portugal. The fact that he seems to have to play every game all the time, I just think that's one of their biggest issues. I don't know how you see it, but for me, this is a big issue for them. So, Pies, who would you pick? France, Portugal?
I think it'll be a close game. I think France will probably do it, but saying about Ronaldo, like, it's Ronaldo. Like, I can see him doing something crazy, like scoring a brace or something.
Score, right?
Like, I do think I'd be surprised if we go past this Euros without a Ronaldo special at some point. So if it's based off this game, I might have to pick Portugal. So, you know what? I will pick Portugal. I think they could.
I don't think it's out of the question.
No,
if Kante plays like Kante has been playing, they ain't got a fucking chance because that guy's
exactly. And if you add on top of that, Mbappe being Mbappe, if he's half what he usually is, I just don't see it. Unfortunately, Pies, for a second time in a row, you've been outvoted. My apologies. This time, I'll make sure you guys go first, but please pick us. Pies, why don't you go first? And you can't be outvoted if you go first. Romania, Austria, who are you backing?
Yeah, you're in the semi-finals. Crazy enough. No one
that is like genuinely, that is one of the most insane things that's ever happened to Austria. If that happens,
crazy.
Unbelievable. Ollie,
I don't see how you'd lose. I think you've got more chance of losing to Turkey than Romania. So
yeah, I would agree with that. I think Romania will have been able to carry themselves really far, but I think the Netherlands, like beating the Netherlands, I think will be like their standout performance, and they will then huff and puff a bit against a team that you're a bit more practical than the Netherlands are in the terms of like the way you press and the way you like to defend. And I think ultimately Romania have got some really good players, and they work together really well as a team. But I think Austria have better players and also work together as a team. So on balance, you should give it to you, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I'll obviously pick Austria as well. For me, it's a weird one. You know what I said about a round of 16, where it's almost a bad thing that we're playing someone who we almost expect to beat. In the quarterfinals, I feel like that almost changes again, because I think, I'm not sure if Austria in any tournament have ever been to a quarterfinal. We've been to a round of 16, but I'm not sure if we've ever made, well, no, we have. In 1954, I know we made the semifinals, but I don't know if since then it happened, right? So if we played, like, say, a Netherlands, or like, I'm concerned if we play Netherlands again in the quarters, that the the occasion of this being a quarterfinal, if we win, we make it to a semi-final, that occasion will kind of like make us freeze a little bit and not play like we did in that group stage game. So that's why I think against a Romania, I think we can just go past that anyway, because like we'll back ourselves enough. But if we play a big team in these quarters, I just don't really see it being possible, even if in a group stage game I'd potentially back us to beat them. But anyways, last one. England, Italy.
Lawrence, just saying, away from this, Keith Downey, who's like the Newcastle reporter, said that Chelsea have held further contact with Newcastle over Alexander Isak today.
Wait, who is he again?
Huh?
Who's the guy that reported again?
Keith Downey, he's like the Newcastle reporter.
Okay.
Would be valued upwards of 100 million. But they're in a difficult position. So we made an inquiry and then we had further talks today. So just maybe something.
I mean, we are supposedly looking for a striker.
I mean, if for all the huffing and puffing we've done about a striker this summer, if we come away with Alexander Isak, that's incredible business, I think.
Yeah. I just think he's very similar to Jackson, so I don't see it from that perspective. I don't see the point, like in terms of stylistically.
Then again, though, like what Price was saying about earlier, is like in terms of Maresca, like having a plan A and then just having variations on a plan A. Maybe you do want like more of the similar kind of players for that position.
Bro, that'd be insane if we could get Isak. Sorry, carry on with this.
Don't get too excited, like, because the wages are going to be the problem again. We might be even willing to pay 115 million pounds again in some sort of stupid installment. But
sorry, I was distracted. Carry on.
Yeah, all good. No problem at all. All good. Yeah. No, hey, I'll take it. I'll certainly take Isak over many other players that we've been linked with for sure. Pice, I'll let you go first again just to make sure you're not getting outvoted one more time. England, Italy. Who are you picking?
Italy. We're going to lose to Italy for sure.
No revenge for Wembley 2021?
No, they'll crumble.
No, we're not good enough to beat Italy. Unless
I didn't think we beat Slovakia, so I'm not packing us to beat Italy.
Yeah. I mean, I'd pick England personally, but you've outvoted me.
You would be wrong about that.
I might, but it's also because I'd prefer to play England in the semis.
Exactly. That's why.
Because Italy, they will go like, okay, I know you're Austria and I know you're like small and shit, but we will still park the bus against you, and then they're fucking Italian and will never score, and they score in the 95th minute and beat us. I can already see it happening. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, so 2 semi-finals. We're nearly done here. I didn't expect this again to be such a long stream. This always happens. Anyway, Germany, France. Ollie, why don't you go first? Who are you picking?
Again, I'm going to give it to Germany. I really do think the home support is really going to carry them through. It's an absolute battle of the Titans. Arguably, I don't know, you'd probably say 2 of the 3 best teams in the world, 2 of the 4 best teams in the world. I can't believe
we took Spain out in the round of 16.
But, you know, like it's just, I just think Germany will, with their support especially, might have a little bit too much for them. France, for everything that we do say about them, about Kante and about Mbappe and all of that stuff, I think they have struggled even with both of them at times in this tournament. Although Mbappe got injured, you know, pretty early on. So I think, based on that, I think I'd just edge it Germany. It might go to penalties.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that happening. Place, who are you picking between Germany and France?
France. I have to go with France. Like I know they've not been great, but I do think. I mean,
hard
France
to rule them out, isn't it?
Yeah, like France were my winners before. I think they got the best squad, so yeah, I have to go with France.
It's a really tricky one because exactly what Pi said. That was me before the tournament, but honestly, Germany have looked better to me than I expected them to. And like Ollie said earlier, even in a game that they were struggling in that game against Switzerland, because Switzerland, I thought overall were potentially maybe even the better team across the whole game, or at least closer to winning it anyway. I think Germany they've impressed me a little bit. I can't lie. I don't know. This is a really tricky one. You know what? I'm going to do a quick poll. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to stop the other poll first. Ladies and gentlemen, I will give you a poll and you pick between France and Germany. Who wins the semi-final? France and Germany. We'll come back to it in a couple of minutes. So please, ladies and gentlemen, place your vote ASAP. So in a few minutes, we can already get back to a result. Because now we're getting to another tough one. I shall let you boys go first again. Ollie, who are you picking between Austria and Italy? This feels so weird. Talk about Austria in the semi-final. I can't. It's strange. Anyway,
I think you know what you were talking about before in the previous section where you were in for the quarterfinal. You were talking about getting to that quarterfinal against a bigger team. You might struggle. Like you might the occasion might be too much for you. I think that wouldn't be the case for you so far, but I think up to the semi-final, like what historically the best you've ever done.
Yeah,
I think that
making a final too much.
Yeah, like I think that might it could go one or two ways. It'll either galvanize you to play really, really well, and you'll go out and leave everything out on the field, or you might crumble under the pressure. And I think against a team like Italy, which, like I said before, they just know how to win, and they can always just find ways to win. I think you might just not have enough.
Yeah, and I think that's totally fair enough. Like, do I think if we had Italy in the group, I believe we would beat Italy. But like you just said, the semi-final is just a different ballgame. It's just different. Now, obviously, there's a good chance it's going to be Netherlands in the quarterfinals rather than Romania. So then that would be another big game in that regard. But I think having Romania in the quarterfinals, that would help it a little bit in the semis because we wouldn't have had quite the same nerves for the quarters potentially. But as much as I want to back Austria, I probably have to pick Italy. Pice, would you pick Italy or do you somehow back Austria? Because I'm very quickly just change again.
No, Italy. I go with Italy. Sorry, I think you're going out.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be, bro.
I do think you could beat them though, from based on what I've seen, but I'm not sure. Like, I think experience, yeah, it may just be. Thing is with Italy is like, they're the current Euros holders, and it's like, even though I don't think they've got the best squad, I think they've got a good path to the final in this bracket. I think even if it was Netherlands, Italy, I'd say Italy would beat Netherlands. I think they'd beat Turkey. And
can I ask you, if England won this and it was Austria, England in the semis, who would you pick then?
Austria.
But also, if you then, because for that to happen, you would have had to make it to the semis. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I would back England on that. Yeah, I do think. Yeah, I don't know actually. I don't know. I don't know because all I'm thinking at is right now and watching our games. But if we get to a semi-final, I feel like the players might just perform by themselves almost. Like they might just think like fucking hell, like we're really close now. Whereas we've just had the group stage, so it's interesting because literally we're 2 games off the semi-final, or we're 1 game off the semi-final. No, 2 games. So if we get to a semi, I would back us if we was playing you because I think we would have had to perform a lot better to get to the semis in the first place. Yeah. So yeah, that would be my logic of it.
I hear that absolutely. I probably think we'd stand a better chance against England than we do against Italy, just because of Southgate. I'll be honest, just Southgate. But yeah, the way we've gone,
Southgate multiplier.
It is a bit unfortunate. We've had a few votes. They've picked Germany. But ladies and gentlemen, I'll give you another minute. If you're still here, please place your vote in the poll and pick between France and Germany, because now we're at a 50-50. So please, all of you, go down below.
Exercise your constitutional rights on Lawrence's stream to vote, please.
Exactly. It's constitutional rights on my stream to vote. If you're on your phone, like you just click the like it's above the live chat below the screen. And if you're on desktop, it's just next to you. So please place your vote. That would be appreciated. It's just such a difficult one. The fact that this so far is 50-50 just explains why it is so tight. It's because, I mean, Ollie, you were talking about the home advantage. Do you think there can come a point where the home advantage becomes pressure for Germany?
Yeah, for sure. But I think their players are used to pressure. Like most of them play at top clubs all over Europe. So, and I get it. It's different in your national team, but I think Germany have been a little bit of a sleeping giant for a long time. Like in the last few tournaments, they've really, really struggled. They've underperformed. And I think for them, like a lot of the players will see this as their chance to like propel themselves back up to the top of the game. And so I think they'll use it more as motivation than pressure. And having all your fans behind you, there's no better time to do it,
No, exactly. It's weird because obviously they had the 2006 World Cup in Germany, and they still hype that up as that. Well, in Germany it's called Sommermärchen, which is kind of like the summer fairy tale, essentially. Even though they only came third and lost in the semi-finals against Italy in extra time. But I don't know. I feel like it's going to be Germany, man.
I think they've just got something different about them this time around.
Yeah.
I think that's all it is.
I think Germany overrated as fuck, to be honest with you. I think they got exposed a little bit against Switzerland.
I mean, yeah, maybe.
But they still found a way to get the result they needed.
But if what you're saying is true, we should be picking Switzerland over Italy. I can't lie.
No, I think Italy have got more know-how about them. I think it'd be
I mean,
close.
I think it's tricky because obviously you English guys, you all like just laugh at Scotland's even existence, right? So the fact that Germany beat Scotland 5-1 to you is like, well, obviously it's Scotland, right? Which I understand,
but no other team has won by that much in the tournament. So
exactly.
Oh, is Lawrence? Or is he okay?
Yeah, I think Lawrence is gone.
And think about you. I think it was the last Euros when you.
He's struggling, isn't he?
Hello.
Hello. There you go. You're back now. You're back now.
My connection was weird. I don't know. Sorry. What was I saying?
Something about Scotland.
Yeah, exactly. Like last Euros, didn't you draw 0-0 against Scotland in the group stages? Like,
but England tax is unbelievable.
True. It's like Austria playing Germany. We play better against Germany than other teams. It's true. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, let's go with it. The poll has gone for Germany 55%, so let's go with that. But it is a tight one. But for sure, it is a tight one. But what a final of European giants that would be as well. Germany, Italy, even if it's France, Italy, obviously would be huge. In this one, honestly, if Italy make the final, regardless of who wins that, whoever wins the thing. Surely, right?
I think so. For me, I would say so. I think whoever wins that it's one of those where it's the final before the final.
Yeah,
just because that side of the bracket
do beat Italy, it doesn't change anything.
Do you know the only difference is I do think if it was Austria versus Germany in the final, I think it would be really close. Because I do think Austria, like you just said, Austria always play that little bit harder against Germany. You'd want to upset them in their own backyard, things like that. But Italy, they just don't have that.
No way we would win a Euros final if we never make.
You never know. But I just don't think Italy will have enough. I think Italy always do quite well because they're quite defensively reasonably resolute, but they don't quite have the firepower for it in a final.
And they don't have Chiellini and Bonucci anymore either.
Yeah, so I think either Donnarumma's going to have to do some crazy stuff,
or Calafiori is worth 200 million after the tournament.
Yeah, or Germany are just going to beat them with Wirtz and Musiala and all of their incredible players and Kroos and Gundogan and everyone who's
incredible
just playing
players plus Havertz, right?
Yeah, incredible players, and then Havertz he'll be there too.
Imagine if Havertz wins the Euros, we won't hear the end of it. Fucking hell.
He hasn't done anything.
He scored that fucking penalty and got that stupid assist, and they're all fucking hyping him. I don't understand how you're not starting Phil Krug anyway. Like, I know he suits the Nagelsmann style a bit better, Havertz does, but surely Phil Krug has done enough to prove that he should be the one starting, no?
No, I don't know. Maybe in the next few rounds we'll see that.
Yeah, maybe we will. So you're picking Germany, right, Ollie?
Yeah, I am. I back them to win the whole thing.
First, Pice, do you back Germany to win the whole thing at home?
What's that?
Do you back Germany to win the whole thing at home?
Wait, what? I didn't vote for France over Germany. Have I been outvoted?
You have.
Yes. the poll, to be fair, not me this time, because I mean I would have gone Germany, but I didn't want to outvote you again, so I let the poll decide, and this poll went Germany. Sorry.
Well, Germany, yeah, I think they'd do it in the final at home. Yeah. I don't see them. I don't see them winning it at all, though.
All I'm thinking is
not my prediction.
Think about how far England got carried, on their own soil for the last Euros.
True.
And they carried us all the way to the final, and so I just feel like that must have a really important, factor.
It could be. I still think if we pick Spain here, I think Spain beats Germany in the quarters.
Yeah, and then it's different because I think Spain-France is a really interesting game. And then, so I don't know.
I genuinely think if we pick Spain here, I might have picked Spain as the end winners, if I'm honest. But that's how it goes.
I think, arguably whoever wins, that is arguably the final before the final in a sense.
Yeah, whether that's Germany-Spain or Germany-France or Spain-France. Yeah, no, I do agree. But yeah, at the end of the day, this took us a hot minute, nearly 2.5 hours. Boys, I'm sorry, as I always am. too often, aren't I? Yeah. And like Ashraf says, we need an Ornstein tweet on Isak. But I'd like someone to reply to me on Twitter. How does Olise and others not make financial sense, but spending over 100 million on Isak does? Because can you really imagine Isak being on like less than 200k? Like, even if we take, even like Pice, what you said to me yesterday, we're more willing to spend big on transfer fee than we are on wages because of, how wage structure and everything. But if you're signing to him for over 100 million, he's not going to join for under 200k, is he? So I guess we finish on that. Pice, give me a 1 out of from 1 to 10. How likely do you see Isak coming to Chelsea?
Like a 1 or a 2, to be honest. But, like, it's just weird. Like, he's very, very reliable for Newcastle news. And he said, like, we had an inquiry and then we've gone back since and had further contact. So we'd have to bid a crazy amount. I mean, look, we have sold Maatsen and Hutchinson's money's coming in. So maybe, but.
And that's fair enough. That's like just under 60 million's worth of pure profit. So, you never know.
You never know. You never know. But I doubt it.
Yeah, except Pice knows, and he says no.
No. I don't
did you hear anything on Isak related before this news has come out now, or did you actually not? Were you not aware of that?
No, I wasn't aware of anything. No.
Sorry, I made Pice expose himself. Actually, Pice knows everything 3 months early. You just don't know, guys. He's just not telling you. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's about time we wrap this one up. Please do check out Pice on Twitter and obviously on Playback, to which the link is on Twitter. Check out Ollie and his podcast. Both of those things are linked down in the description. So please do check that out. Stately home for sale. It took me half an hour to read that word, stately. How often do you read the word stately, man? There you go. But yeah, do check out Ollie's links. They're all in the description below. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to this channel as well. Hit that like button on your way out. That would be massively appreciated. And yeah, let's see what happens with Chelsea. Dewsbury-Hall, Isak. God knows what else will happen. It's going to be an interesting one. Let's see about the Euros knockouts. I don't think we're going to do this again before the quarterfinals, but maybe we will. It should be a lot quicker then, but I thought it would be quick today. So here we are. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Upwards and onwards for Chelsea, but also still backwards and downwards because it's still a bit weird. We will see you next time.